Nobody owes you anything. This harsh truth cuts deep for many, but it is one of the most empowering lessons you will ever learn. Life doesn't come with a set of guarantees. No one is obligated to offer you love, success, or even kindness. The people around you, no matter how close they are not bound by any invisible contract to give you what you think you deserve. This realization can feel isolating, even crushing. The truth is, we often expect things to come our way simply because we want them, because we've worked hard, or because we feel entitled. But the universe doesn't operate on these assumptions. What's even more unsettling is that the people who hurt you, ignore you, or don't meet your expectations are often not malicious. They're simply living their own lives, driven by their own motives and needs. Waiting for others to take responsibility for your happiness, success, or validation is a trap. It's a way of surrendering your power, placing it in someone else's hands, and blaming them when things don't go as planned. No one else will ever fully fulfill your dreams, nor are they required to. You are the only one who holds the keys to your own destiny. The sooner you accept that nobody owes you anything, the sooner you'll start taking control, pushing through adversity, and building the life you want. This realization strips away the illusion of entitlement and forces you to take full responsibility for your journey. It's a painful truth, but one that will ultimately set you free. Life isn't fair and never will be. This is the bitter pill we all must swallow. Life doesn't play by a rule book that guarantees justice, equality, or a sense of fairness. It's a chaotic, unpredictable force that deals its cards without any regard for how deserving you are. You might work tirelessly, put in the hours, and still watch others succeed, seemingly by chance. Meanwhile, you could see others who don't deserve it get handed opportunities on a silver platter. Life doesn't owe you fairness, and the sooner you accept this, the sooner you'll learn to thrive in spite of it. It's easy to get lost in the idea that if you play by the rules, you'll be rewarded. But the truth is, the rules themselves aren't always fair. People with less experience or less work ethic sometimes rise faster, simply because of timing, privilege, or luck. This unfairness doesn't mean you should give up or stop trying, but it does mean you must adjust your expectations. Waiting for fairness is a losing battle. Life isn't interested in rewarding your goodness or punishing your failures with balance. Once you stop waiting for fairness to show up, you start to see opportunities in places you didn't before. You begin to find the power in accepting that life is a game with no guarantees. The truth is, fairness is a luxury that doesn't always exist. But in embracing that, you stop being a victim and start taking control of your own path, using unfairness as fuel to power your resilience. Most people only care about what you can do for them. This truth stings, especially when you realize that many of the relationships you've invested time and energy into aren't as genuine as you'd hoped. The uncomfortable reality is that, at the core, most people are driven by self-interest. They seek you out not for who you are, but for what you can provide them, whether it's attention, support, validation, or resources. This isn't a judgment on human nature. It's simply the way social dynamics work. We are all wired to pursue our own needs, and often that means using others to fulfill them. The harshness of this lesson becomes clear when you find yourself giving and giving, only to be left empty or unnoticed when you need something in return. You might realize that the people you thought were your closest allies disappear when you can no longer offer what they want. This pattern is difficult to confront, especially when you've been giving selflessly or investing deeply in others. The bitter truth is that some relationships are transactional, even if you want them to be more. It doesn't make people bad, but it does require you to reset your expectations. Once you accept this, you begin to understand the importance of creating boundaries, protecting your energy, and learning to give without expecting anything back. The key is not to let this realization harden your heart or make you cynical, but to empower you to choose relationships that are balanced and mutual, and to stop pouring into people who only take. You can do everything right and still fail. This lesson is one of the hardest to accept, especially when you've poured your heart, soul, and every ounce of effort into something. You've done the research, worked tirelessly, followed every piece of advice, and stayed disciplined. Yet, despite all the right moves, the outcome isn't what you expected. Failure hits, often without any clear explanation. It shakes you, undermining everything you thought you knew about success. You begin to question yourself, wondering where you went wrong or if you were ever on the right path to begin with. The reality is, life doesn't always reward effort. Sometimes factors completely out of your control, timing, luck, the actions of others, or external circumstances determine whether your hard work will bear fruit. It's not always a reflection of your abilities, intelligence, or worth. The truth is that success is often an unpredictable combination of persistence, opportunity, and circumstance. You can give your best, follow the perfect formula, and still find yourself facing failure. But here's where this lesson becomes powerful. Accepting that you can fail despite doing everything right removes the weight of perfectionism. It frees you from the need for constant validation and helps you understand that failure isn't the end. It's part of the journey. You're allowed to fail, and it doesn't negate your effort. In fact, it often brings lessons and resilience that success cannot. Life doesn't guarantee rewards for doing things the right way, but it does reward those who keep going, regardless of the outcome. Comfort is the enemy of growth. This is a lesson that challenges the very core of what we desire: peace, ease, and security. The truth is, comfort feels safe, and we often equate it with happiness. But the moment you get too comfortable, you stop pushing yourself, stop evolving. Growth requires discomfort. It demands that you step into the unknown, face your fears, and stretch your limits. The things that challenge you the most, those moments that make you sweat, doubt, or feel like you might fail, are the very experiences that fuel your development. When you're comfortable, you're not learning, you're not evolving, you're simply staying in a space that feels familiar and predictable. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with comfort, it becomes dangerous when it prevents you from taking risks, trying new things, or facing the uncomfortable truths about who you are and who you want to become. Comfort lulls you into complacency, where you're no longer striving for the next level, and that's when you begin to stagnate. Growth happens outside of that comfort zone. It's in the moments where you challenge yourself, where you take on the tasks that scare you, and when you embrace discomfort with the understanding that it's the only path to something greater. Comfort feels good in the short term, but the price you pay is the life you could have had. Once you realize that comfort is your greatest barrier, you'll begin to push through the discomfort and unlock the potential within you that's waiting to be realized. Your feelings don't change reality. It's one of the toughest truths to swallow. No matter how intense, valid, or overwhelming your feelings may be, they don't alter the world around you. Feelings are powerful. They can paralyze you with fear, fuel your dreams, or send you spiraling into despair. But no matter how much you want them to, they don't have the ability to rewrite the facts of your life. You might feel betrayed by someone, but that doesn't change their actions. You might feel like you're stuck, but your feelings alone won't shift your circumstances. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if you feel something deeply enough, it will force reality to bend to your will. But the truth is that emotions are often fleeting, clouded by our own perceptions and biases. They don't define the actual situation. They only define how we interpret it. This harsh reality can feel isolating, especially when your emotions are high and everything seems to hinge on how you feel in the moment. But the sooner you realize that your feelings don't dictate outcomes, the sooner you can begin to separate them from your decisions. In fact, the most powerful thing you can do is recognize that while your feelings matter, they should not control your actions. You can't always change how you feel, but you can change how you respond. The key is to acknowledge your emotions, but to ground yourself in reality. Embrace the truth that feelings, while valid, are not the compass that should guide your path. Only your actions, fueled by logic and clarity, will bring about lasting change. No one is coming to save you. This harsh truth often stirs deep discomfort because it forces us to face the reality that, at the end of the day, we are the ones responsible for our own lives. As much as we wish for a hero, a partner, a friend, or a mentor who will swoop in and make everything better, the truth is, no one is coming to fix your problems, heal your wounds, or carry your burdens. The world doesn't operate on the idea of a rescue mission, and no matter how much you long for someone to step in, that responsibility falls squarely on your own shoulders. This revelation can be terrifying, especially when you're in a place of deep struggle or uncertainty. It's easy to look for external sources of hope or wait for the perfect moment when everything falls into place. But the longer you wait, the more time you lose. Life doesn't pause for you to catch your breath. No one will save you from yourself. However, this isn't a bleak or hopeless lesson. In fact, it's empowering. Once you realize that the only person capable of saving you is you, it forces you to take action. It urges you to stop waiting for outside forces to change your circumstances. You must become your own hero, take control, and make the decisions necessary for your own growth. You are the architect of your future, and while the journey may be difficult, the power to create change rests entirely in your hands. Discipline beats motivation every time. Motivation is fleeting, a temporary surge of energy that often fades as quickly as it arrives. It's the spark that gets you excited to start something new, to take on a challenge or push through a tough time. But motivation doesn't last. It's inconsistent, unpredictable, and dependent on how you feel in the moment. Some days you wake up ready to conquer the world, and other days you can barely muster the energy to get out of bed. Discipline, on the other hand, is the silent force that drives you when motivation disappears. It's the act of showing up day after day, regardless of how you feel. Discipline is about creating habits that push you forward even when you don't feel like it. It's waking up early to work out, even when the bed feels too comfortable. It's writing that extra page when your mind is exhausted. Discipline doesn't care about your mood, your energy, or your excuses. It's about doing the work consistently over time. What makes discipline so powerful is that it doesn't rely on how inspired or motivated you feel. It's the foundation that supports long-term success. Motivation might get you started, but it's discipline that keeps you going. And over time, discipline builds momentum, turning small, consistent actions into big results. So while motivation may give you the initial push, it's discipline that guarantees progress, growth, and ultimate success. You'll lose friends as you grow. This is one of the most painful and inevitable truths about personal growth. As you evolve, your values, ambitions, and perspectives shift, and with that comes a natural drift from people who no longer align with who you're becoming. The friends you once connected with over shared interests or circumstances may not understand your journey or may no longer fit into the life you're crafting. It's a hard realization that the people you once leaned on might not be there as you continue to level up. And, in many cases, they won't leave quietly. There's often jealousy, judgment, or even resentment from those who feel threatened by your transformation. It can feel lonely at times, watching relationships dissolve without clear reasons, and it can leave you questioning yourself, wondering if you've done something wrong. But the truth is, growth requires change. You can't expect to keep everything in your life exactly the same while you elevate to new heights. Some people will stay and others will fade away, not because you've abandoned them, but because your paths no longer align. This doesn't mean you should cut people off unnecessarily, but it's crucial to understand that not everyone is meant to walk with you through every stage of your life. As you grow, you'll attract new people who resonate with the person you're becoming. The loss of friends isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're evolving and outgrowing who you once were. Letting go of the past creates space for new, more aligned relationships to flourish. The world doesn't reward intentions, only results. It's an uncomfortable truth, but it's one that can drastically shift your perspective. No one cares about your good intentions if they don't lead to real, measurable outcomes. You can have the best of intentions. You can plan, hope, and promise all day long, but if those intentions don't materialize into tangible results, they mean nothing in the eyes of the world. This harsh reality often hits hardest when you've worked tirelessly toward a goal, but the results fall short, and nobody seems to notice the effort you put in. The world doesn't operate on should or could. It doesn't reward the amount of time, energy, or heart you've poured into something. The only thing that matters is what you produce. You could be the most well-meaning, hard-working person in the room, but if your actions don't lead to progress, success, or change, you'll be overlooked. In business, in relationships, in life, it's results that get recognized, rewarded, and remembered. This lesson forces you to confront a painful truth. Intentions, while valuable, are not enough. You must turn your intentions into something concrete. The world demands evidence of your efforts. It's not enough to say you tried. You have to show that your actions led to a meaningful outcome. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you'll stop making excuses and start demanding real results from yourself. Ultimately, it's results that create value, change, and recognition, not the well-meaning intentions behind them. Hard work doesn't guarantee success. This painful truth challenges everything we've been told about the value of effort. From a young age, we're taught that if we work hard enough, we'll eventually achieve our goals. Hard work is revered as the ultimate path to success. But the reality is far more complex. You can pour countless hours into something, give it everything you have, and still end up with nothing. Hard work is only one piece of the puzzle. Success is often shaped by factors outside of your control: timing, luck, privilege, and opportunity. This truth can be a devastating blow to anyone who has dedicated themselves to a dream, only to find that their best wasn't enough. It shakes the foundation of everything you thought you understood about effort and reward. Hard work, no matter how relentless, is not a surefire recipe for success. You can give your all and still face rejection, failure, or simply be passed over by circumstances that have nothing to do with your effort. But this isn't meant to discourage you. Instead, it's meant to free you from the illusion of certainty. Knowing that hard work doesn't guarantee success allows you to let go of unrealistic expectations and focus on what you can control: your actions, your resilience, and your ability to learn from setbacks. It teaches you that success is a mix of preparation, persistence, and sometimes just being in the right place at the right time. Hard work is essential, but success requires much more than just sweat and determination. You're not as special as you think. This may sting more than you're ready for, but it's a crucial life lesson. For most of us, the world revolves around our personal experiences, struggles, and achievements. We often feel like we're the center of our own universe, the lead character in the story of our lives, and in many ways, we are, to ourselves. But in the vast, chaotic expanse of the world, we're just one individual among billions. Our problems, our triumphs, our desires, they matter deeply to us, but they're just a tiny blip in the grand scheme of things. This isn't to say you're insignificant, but that there's a humbling truth in realizing that we're not as unique or irreplaceable as we sometimes believe. People come and go, and the world moves on with or without us. The sooner you embrace this, the less pressure you put on yourself to be constantly extraordinary. It frees you from the constant need for validation, recognition, and admiration. You stop needing to prove your worth through achievements, titles, or others' opinions. Instead, you can focus on what really matters, living authentically and meaningfully without the burden of constantly trying to be special. The truth is, we're all just trying to figure things out, and the only thing that truly sets you apart is how you choose to impact the world, not the pedestal you place yourself on. By letting go of the need to be the exception, you make room to simply be human, and that, in itself, is enough. People will judge you no matter what you do. This is a harsh but liberating truth. No matter how you live your life, there will always be someone who has an opinion about it. You could be the kindest, most generous person, and someone will still criticize you. You could play it safe, follow all the rules, and others will label you as weak or unambitious. Or you could take risks and live boldly, and still people will find fault. Judgment is a constant and inevitable byproduct of human nature. People project their own insecurities, fears, and limitations onto others, often without any real understanding of your journey. It's painful when you realize that no matter how much you try to please others or conform to their expectations, it will never be enough. You can spend years trying to earn approval, only to find that it doesn't bring the satisfaction you thought it would. The harsh truth is that seeking validation from others will always be a losing battle. People will judge you for things they don't even understand, and sometimes they won't even know the full picture. Their judgments are often based on assumptions, biases, and their own struggles, not who you truly are. The real freedom comes when you accept this. When you realize that judgment is unavoidable, you stop living for other people's opinions and start living for yourself. The key is to focus on your own values and stop letting the noise of others drown out your inner truth. Judgment will always be there, but you get to decide how much power it holds over you. You can't make everyone happy. It's a crushing realization, especially if you're someone who seeks approval or constantly strives to please others. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much effort you put into being the perfect friend, partner, or colleague, you will never be able to make everyone happy. People have different needs, expectations, and values, and no matter how much you mold yourself to meet theirs, there will always be someone who isn't satisfied. This truth is particularly painful for those who have always thought that love and approval could be earned through self-sacrifice and relentless effort. But the reality is that it's impossible to satisfy everyone, no matter how much you give. The more you try to keep everyone around you happy, the more you lose yourself in the process. You end up compromising your values, your time, and your energy just to avoid conflict or disappointment. You may even find yourself resenting others for their expectations, or worse, feeling invisible when your efforts go unnoticed. This truth doesn't mean you should stop trying to be kind, thoughtful, or considerate, but it does mean you need to set boundaries and accept that your worth isn't dependent on others' happiness. The key is to find peace in knowing that you can only control your actions, not how others respond. Once you release the burden of trying to please everyone, you'll discover that your own happiness becomes more attainable, and that's the only one that truly matters. Most people settle. Don't be one of them. It's easy to slip into a life of mediocrity. The world, in all its complexity, constantly pushes you toward convenience, comfort, and the safe choices. You see people around you settling, taking the job that doesn't excite them, staying in relationships that no longer nourish them, or simply accepting the life they think they deserve, because it's easier than chasing after something more. It's a trap, one that feels warm and comforting at first, but eventually suffocates you. Most people settle because they fear the unknown. They're exhausted, or they've convinced themselves they're not worthy of more. But settling comes at a cost. It robs you of the potential for greatness, the chance to live a life that truly excites you. The truth is, settling is a slow death of ambition and dreams. It tells you that what you want, the big, bold vision of your life, isn't worth fighting for. It whispers that you should be grateful for what you have and not ask for more. And while gratitude is powerful, complacency isn't. You don't have to settle for a life of mediocrity just because it's easier. There's a world of possibilities out there, waiting for you to take the leap, to step into the discomfort, and to choose something greater. It's not about perfection, but about relentlessly pursuing a life that challenges you, excites you, and fulfills you. So don't settle for good enough. Demand more from life and more from yourself. The past can't be changed, only learned from. This is a painful but liberating truth. Many of us are haunted by things we've done, said, or missed out on. Mistakes, regrets, lost opportunities. We play the what-if game, imagining how different things could be if we had made different choices. The problem is that the past is a realm we can never touch again. Time doesn't rewind, and the moments we wish we could undo will always be behind us. No matter how much we wish, we cannot change what has already happened. This doesn't mean that the past holds no power. On the contrary, the lessons buried within it are some of the most valuable you'll ever have. Every mistake, every failure, every moment of hurt has a lesson wrapped in it, even if it's painful to accept. When we refuse to let go of the past, we trap ourselves in a cycle of regret that robs us of our present. By obsessing over what we can't change, we lose sight of what we can do now. The key is to look at the past not as a source of shame, but as a teacher. Every experience, no matter how painful, can provide wisdom that shapes who we become. The ability to extract lessons from what's gone without letting it define you is what frees you to live fully in the present. The past is a part of you, but it doesn't have to control you. The only thing you can change now is how you move forward, using those lessons to guide you. Nobody's thinking about you as much as you think they are. This is one of the most humbling realizations you'll ever encounter. The truth is, people are rarely as consumed by thoughts of you as you imagine. We often get caught up in the belief that everyone is watching, analyzing, or judging our every move. We second-guess our words, obsess over past interactions, and wonder how we're being perceived. The harsh reality is that most people are too preoccupied with their own lives, their own insecurities, and their own struggles to spend much time thinking about you. The idea that others are constantly scrutinizing us stems from a deep-seated fear of judgment, but it's usually not as intense or widespread as we fear. People may remember a few moments or impressions, but life goes on, and so do they. This truth is liberating in its simplicity. It frees you from the pressure of perfection, from the anxiety of worrying about how you're perceived in every situation. The constant self-monitoring you do is often based on a false narrative that you are the center of everyone's thoughts. Once you realize that nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they are, you can stop letting that fear hold you back. You can stop overthinking, stop worrying about what others might think, and start living more authentically. The world is not as focused on your every move as you believe, so you might as well take the weight off your shoulders and live more freely. Time is your most valuable currency. Time is the one resource you can never get back. Once it's gone forever, making it the most precious currency you'll ever possess. Every second spent is an investment, whether you're aware of it or not. The truth is, we often squander time without even realizing its value. We waste hours on distractions, procrastinate on important goals, and delay the things that truly matter because we mistakenly believe that time is endless. But the more you become aware of how fleeting it is, the more you realize just how much of it you've already lost and how little time is left to make an impact. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking there's always tomorrow, that you have endless opportunities to fix things, pursue dreams, or make meaningful changes. But the older you get, the more you realize that time doesn't work that way. Your opportunities begin to shrink, and the weight of wasted moments starts to add up. Time isn't something you can store, hoard, or borrow. It moves relentlessly forward, whether you're ready for it or not. This lesson forces you to question how you're spending your time. Are you investing it in things that align with your goals and values, or are you letting it slip through your fingers on things that won't matter tomorrow? Once you truly understand the value of time, you stop wasting it on meaningless tasks, unfulfilling relationships, and aimless distractions. You start to treat it as the currency it is, a finite, irreplaceable resource that must be spent wisely. Excuses don't change outcomes. It's human nature to look for reasons why things didn't go as planned. When faced with failure, setbacks, or disappointment, it's tempting to create excuses that shield us from the harshness of reality. We say things like, "I wasn't given enough time," "I didn't have the right resources," or "it wasn't the right moment." While these excuses might offer temporary relief, they never change the outcome. The truth is, excuses are justifications for why we didn't succeed, but they don't alter the fact that we didn't succeed. They keep us stuck in a cycle of inaction, allowing us to blame external forces rather than confronting the uncomfortable truth. The result is ultimately our responsibility. Excuses are often a way of protecting our egos. They allow us to avoid the sting of failure, but in doing so, they prevent growth. When you rely on excuses, you rob yourself of the opportunity to learn from your mistakes, adjust, and try again. Instead of taking accountability for what happened, you stay in a state of denial, and that's a dangerous place to be. It keeps you from realizing that success doesn't come from having everything go perfectly. It comes from persistence, resilience, and adaptability. The key to real progress is to stop looking for reasons why something didn't work out and start asking what you can do differently next time. Excuses don't change the outcome, but action and reflection can transform failure into a stepping stone towards success. Happiness is a choice, not a constant state. This is a powerful and eye-opening realization that challenges everything we've been told about happiness. Society often paints happiness as something we should be constantly striving for, a state that we should somehow always feel. We see images of perfect lives, flawless smiles, and people living with endless joy. But the truth is, happiness is not a permanent condition or something that happens to you. It's something you actively choose. No one is happy all the time. There are days when life feels heavy, when stress takes over, and when things don't go as planned, and that's okay. Real happiness doesn't come from external circumstances or the pursuit of constant pleasure. It comes from how you choose to react, how you choose to perceive the world, and how you decide to deal with setbacks. It's a mental shift, an attitude toward life. Choosing happiness means accepting that it's not a fleeting moment of bliss, but a decision to focus on the good in your life, even when things aren't perfect. It's about finding gratitude in the midst of struggles, about choosing to laugh even when you're tired, and about cultivating peace regardless of chaos. Happiness is fleeting, yes, but by making it a choice, you give yourself the power to access it at any moment. It's not about waiting for happiness to appear. It's about creating it from within, despite life's unpredictability. You become what you tolerate. This is a truth that will strike deep into your core because it forces you to face the uncomfortable reality that the standards you accept in your life, whether from others or from yourself, directly shape who you are becoming. Tolerating mediocrity, toxic relationships, poor behavior, or bad habits doesn't just keep you stuck. It slowly, insidiously molds you into someone who accepts less than they deserve. You might think that enduring difficult circumstances or putting up with disrespectful people is a sign of strength, but in reality, it's a sign of resignation. Over time, those compromises transform you into the kind of person who stops believing they deserve better. When you tolerate disrespect, abuse, or lack of growth, you are silently agreeing to let those things define your worth. The way you allow others to treat you, the standards you set for yourself, and what you're willing to accept in life. All of these factors create your reality. If you accept chaos, you will live in chaos. If you accept mediocrity, your achievements will reflect it. Every moment you tolerate something that doesn't serve you, you are silently telling the universe that this is who you are and this is what you are willing to accept. But the flip side is equally powerful. When you stop tolerating the things that diminish you, when you set boundaries and demand better for yourself, you begin to shift your life in profound ways. You create space for growth, respect, and abundance. You are the sum of the things you tolerate. So, if you want to transform, start by raising your standards. Being busy doesn't mean being productive. This is a tough pill to swallow for many of us, especially in a world that glorifies constant activity and hustle. We often equate being busy with being successful, assuming that if we're running from task to task, we're making progress. But here's the harsh reality. Activity doesn't equal achievement. You can fill your day with endless meetings, emails, and to-do lists, and still accomplish nothing of real value. Being busy often masks the truth that you're caught up in the noise of work and life, but not in the things that truly matter. Too often we mistake busyness for productivity. We convince ourselves that the more tasks we check off, the closer we are to our goals. But many of these tasks are just distractions or filler, things that keep us moving but don't move us forward. In fact, being busy can be a form of procrastination, a way of avoiding the harder, more important work that requires focus and deep thought. We hide behind tasks because we don't want to face the uncomfortable truth. Real progress requires intention, not just movement. The key to true productivity is not in doing more, but in doing what actually matters. It's about focusing your energy on high-impact activities, saying no to distractions, and learning to prioritize your most important goals. Once you stop celebrating busyness and start celebrating meaningful progress, you'll discover that productivity isn't about how much you do, it's about what you accomplish. Love isn't enough without respect and effort. We often hear that love is the foundation of every relationship, and while it is undeniably powerful, it alone cannot sustain a lasting connection. Love without respect and effort is like a seed without soil. It might start strong, but without the necessary care and nourishment, it will wither. In a relationship, love is the spark, but respect is the fuel that keeps it burning. Respect for each other's boundaries, desires, and individuality is what creates a safe space for love to grow. Without it, love becomes fragile, easily broken by misunderstandings, neglect, and resentment. Effort, too, plays a crucial role. Love doesn't thrive on autopilot. It requires daily work, listening, understanding, compromise, and sometimes sacrifice. Relationships demand constant attention and intentional action. When one person stops putting in the effort, when respect fades, or when love is taken for granted, it begins to crumble. The excitement of being in love can only last so long if the relationship isn't being nurtured with kindness and understanding. This harsh reality is hard to swallow, especially for those who believe that love should be enough to make things work. But love is not a passive force. It needs to be protected, cultivated, and maintained. If you want a relationship that endures, it requires more than just feelings. It requires a commitment to respect, to showing up for one another, and to consistently putting in the effort to grow together. Without these, even the deepest love will eventually fade. People outgrow each other. It's normal. This is one of the most difficult truths to accept, especially when you've invested a great deal of time, energy, and love into a relationship. Whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, or a family bond, it's natural to believe that these connections will remain the same forever. But the reality is that people change. We grow, evolve, and transform in ways we can't always predict. As a result, sometimes we outgrow the people we used to be so close to. It's painful, but it's also a normal part of life. As we develop, our values, goals, and desires shift. What once brought you together may no longer resonate in the same way. The things that once felt effortless and natural might become strained or distant. It doesn't mean that anyone has done anything wrong. It's simply a sign that both individuals have moved in different directions. The person who once felt like a soulmate may no longer feel like the right fit as you evolve. This isn't a reason for guilt or regret. It's a sign of growth, even if it's uncomfortable. Holding on to relationships that no longer serve you can keep you stuck in a version of yourself that you've already outgrown. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't value the relationship. It just means that you're both on different paths now, and that's okay. People outgrowing each other isn't a failure. It's a natural progression of life, one that opens space for new connections that align with who you've become. Success attracts haters. This is a painful but undeniable truth that every successful person learns at some point. When you start to achieve, when you push past the ordinary and reach for the extraordinary, you will inevitably draw criticism, jealousy, and resentment from others. It doesn't matter how hard you work to get there or how genuine your success is. The simple fact of your achievement will make people uncomfortable. They will question your methods, your motives, and even your character, often because they are threatened by the very idea of you reaching a place they themselves desire but have not yet attained. Haters often emerge when you surpass the limits of what others believe is possible, or when your success exposes the gaps between their dreams and their reality. It's a natural response. People feel better about their own perceived failures when they see someone else struggle or fall. The more visible your success becomes, the more likely it is that someone will try to tear it down, often without knowing the blood, sweat, and sacrifices that went into it. This judgment is painful, especially when it comes from people you once considered friends or allies. But here's the truth. It's a sign you're doing something right. Your success has shaken the status quo, and those who are threatened by it may lash out in an attempt to regain control. Instead of letting their negativity bring you down, see it as validation that you are moving in the right direction. When you achieve something remarkable, you force others to face the gap between their own potential and what you've actually accomplished. The key is not to let the haters distract you, but to use their negativity as fuel to keep pushing forward. You can't pour from an empty cup. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking you need to give all of yourself to others in order to be loved, appreciated, or valued. You pour your energy, time, and resources into people and responsibilities, often neglecting your own well-being in the process. But here's the brutal truth. You cannot give your best if you're running on empty. If you continuously pour from a cup that is drained, you end up depleted, frustrated, and burnt out. Eventually, there's nothing left to give, and the people who depend on you are left with an empty promise. We often think of self-care as selfishness, or that taking time for ourselves is indulgent. But the truth is, self-care is essential for maintaining your ability to give. You can't be the best version of yourself if you're constantly operating in survival mode, giving away everything you have without refilling your own reserves. Whether it's physical rest, emotional reflection, or mental clarity, you need to take the time to refill your own cup so you can continue to show up for others. This lesson is about understanding your limits and recognizing that your needs matter too. When you take care of yourself, you increase your ability to contribute, be present, and give with a sense of purpose. It's not about choosing yourself over others. It's about ensuring that you are in a position to offer the best of who you are. Without self-care, you won't have the strength to make a lasting impact. The truth is simple. You can't pour from an empty cup. Refill it and you'll find you have more to give than ever before. Your comfort zone will destroy you if you stay there. It's easy to convince yourself that comfort is what you deserve. After all, who doesn't want to feel safe, secure, and free from the pressures of the world? The truth, however, is that staying within your comfort zone, where everything feels familiar and predictable, will slowly erode your potential. It might seem like the most peaceful place to be, but it's a trap that stifles growth and keeps you stuck. The more you resist stepping out into the unknown, the more you limit your opportunities to learn, evolve, and reach your fullest potential. When you choose comfort over challenge, you choose stagnation. Life outside your comfort zone is where real growth happens. It's where you find your strength, your resilience, and your ability to adapt. It's in the discomfort of pushing yourself that you discover new skills, new perspectives, and untapped potential. But if you stay in the safe, easy place, you rob yourself of those opportunities. The world doesn't reward stagnation. It rewards those who take risks, those who are willing to step into the discomfort of the unknown. Yes, it's terrifying to leave what's familiar. Yes, it's hard to face the uncertainty, but that's where life really happens. When you break free from your comfort zone, you begin to truly live. The longer you stay, the more your dreams fade into the background, slowly replaced by a quiet regret. Staying comfortable might feel good for now, but it's ultimately a slow poison to your growth and your future. Embrace the discomfort, because that's where the real magic lies. The truth hurts. That's why it matters. The truth is often uncomfortable, even excruciating. It exposes our vulnerabilities, shatters illusions, and forces us to confront realities we'd rather avoid. But it's precisely this pain that gives truth its power. It cuts through the layers of denial and self-deception we've built, stripping us down to what's real. We often shy away from truth because it feels like a wound, but in reality, it's the only thing that can heal us. The pain we feel from truth is a signal, a wake-up call to face what we need to change or accept about ourselves and the world around us. When we live in denial or refuse to acknowledge the truth, we only prolong our suffering. The truth doesn't care about our comfort or our need for reassurance. It exists independently, untouched by our desire for smooth sailing. It may hurt when we first hear it, but it's also the only thing that truly frees us. Lies and illusions may provide temporary relief, but they trap us in a cycle of delusion and avoidance. Embracing the truth means accepting discomfort for the sake of growth. It's about accepting that sometimes facing the painful facts is what moves us forward. The truth may sting in the moment, but it's this very sting that forces us to evolve, make better choices, and rebuild from a place of honesty. And in the end, it's the truths we dare to confront that shape who we become. Money won't solve all your problems, but lack of it will create more. This is a truth that many people refuse to acknowledge until they experience it firsthand. While money isn't the key to happiness, it undeniably has the power to relieve a multitude of stressors and open doors to opportunities that can improve your quality of life. When you have financial stability, you can focus on personal growth, relationships, and the pursuit of passions. It removes the constant worry about survival, allowing you to live with a sense of security and freedom. But without it, the challenges you face multiply. The pressure of not knowing how you'll pay your bills, take care of your family, or afford your basic needs creates an emotional and mental strain that can overshadow everything else. Lack of money doesn't just limit your access to comforts or luxuries, it impacts your ability to live with dignity. It forces you into survival mode, where every decision, every thought revolves around how to make ends meet. It affects your relationships, your peace of mind, and even your health. The constant stress of financial instability can lead to anxiety, depression, and a sense of helplessness. The lack of money may not solve your inner struggles or guarantee happiness, but it often compounds your difficulties, making it harder to focus on anything else. Having money doesn't erase life's deeper challenges, but it certainly gives you the freedom to handle them more effectively. It's not about the accumulation of wealth, but about using it as a tool to reduce life's stressors and create space for growth. Lack of it, on the other hand, can trap you in a cycle of worry that makes every other problem seem more insurmountable. You can't save everyone. This lesson hits hard, especially if you're someone who has always wanted to help, heal, or fix the problems of those around you. You might believe that if you love hard enough, give enough, or try enough, you can rescue people from their struggles. But the painful truth is, no matter how much you care or how much effort you put in, you can't save everyone. People have to want to help themselves. They have to be ready to change. And even then, the road to healing is theirs to walk, not yours to carry. It's easy to take on the weight of others' burdens, especially if you feel responsible for their pain or growth. But what happens when you give everything and still see no progress? What happens when the people you're trying to save don't change or even reject your help? It's devastating. You begin to realize that your energy is being drained and you're left with a hollow sense of frustration and helplessness. The truth is, there will always be people who are unwilling to change, who are stuck in their patterns, or who simply don't want your help. And no matter how much you care, their journey is theirs to make. This doesn't mean you stop being compassionate or offering support when you can, but it does mean that you need to set boundaries and recognize when it's time to step back. You cannot fix people, and sometimes the best thing you can do is to let them go through their process, even if it's painful to watch. Growth often feels like loss. The idea that growth is always a positive, upward climb is a comforting fantasy, but the reality is far more complicated. True growth often comes with pain, discomfort, and most strikingly, loss. As you evolve, you shed parts of yourself, old beliefs, toxic relationships, familiar routines that no longer serve your higher purpose. These losses can feel like a betrayal, like you're giving up pieces of who you once were, and it's easy to mistake this for failure. The people, habits, and situations you once relied on may fade or disappear, leaving you feeling empty and uncertain. What makes this process even harder is the internal conflict that comes with change. The comfort of what you know collides with the unfamiliarity of what you're becoming. You start to question if you've made the right choices, if the pain and sacrifice are truly worth the transformation. It's easy to hold on to what's familiar, even if it's holding you back. But the reality is that you cannot grow without letting go of the things that are keeping you small. This type of growth feels like loss because it requires a willingness to release what you thought was essential to your identity. But the truth is, what you gain is always greater than what you lose. The new version of yourself, the one that emerges after the shedding, is stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with who you are meant to be. Growth may feel like loss in the moment, but it's simply the space being cleared for something better, something truer to take its place. Jealousy is wasted energy. Jealousy is a silent thief, quietly draining your mental and emotional resources. It's easy to slip into jealousy when you see someone achieving what you desire, enjoying the success or attention you crave, or living a life that feels out of reach. The feeling can be intense, even consuming. But here's the hard truth. Jealousy serves no productive purpose. It doesn't change the reality of someone else's success, nor does it bring you any closer to your own. It simply holds you in a state of comparison and resentment, taking your energy and focus away from what really matters, your own growth. When you feel jealous, you're giving someone else's accomplishments more power over your emotions than they deserve. Instead of looking inward and focusing on how you can improve or achieve what you want, jealousy causes you to look outward, only to find yourself stuck in a cycle of self-pity or anger. It wastes time and energy that could be better spent on personal development, learning, or working towards your own goals. Jealousy is rooted in insecurity and fear, and it only reinforces those feelings. It tells you that there's not enough room for your success, that someone else's happiness somehow diminishes your own. The reality is, there is enough success and happiness for everyone. Embracing this truth frees you from the weight of jealousy and redirects your energy into creating a life that is uniquely yours. The only person you need to compete with is yourself. Your health is everything. Protect it. This is a lesson that often gets ignored until it's too late. But once you truly grasp its significance, it becomes impossible to unsee. Your health is the foundation of every aspect of your life. Your ability to work, to enjoy time with loved ones, to pursue passions, and to live with vitality. Without it, everything else loses its value. It doesn't matter how much wealth you've accumulated or how many dreams you've fulfilled if you're unable to enjoy them because your body is failing you. The body you have right now is the only one you'll ever get, and neglecting it is like sabotaging your future self. Most people take their health for granted until a crisis forces them to confront its fragility. We push ourselves to the limit, often sacrificing sleep, eating poorly, and avoiding exercise in the name of productivity or convenience. But the truth is, you can't outwork bad health. Your body will eventually break down if you don't take care of it, and the consequences can be debilitating. The pain of poor health isn't just physical. It can affect your mental state, your relationships, and your emotional well-being. Once you lose your health, you'll realize just how much everything else depends on it. Taking care of yourself isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Your health requires daily attention, nourishing food, exercise, rest, and mental care. It's not about perfection, but about consistency. The habits you build today will determine how well you can live tomorrow. If you want to live fully, do it with a body that supports you, not one that's broken down from neglect. Protect your health now, and you'll be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor later. People lie, even the ones you trust. This truth cuts deep, especially when the lies come from those you least expect it. You may have trusted someone wholeheartedly, believed that their word was unbreakable, only to discover that they've deceived you. It's a harsh reality, but it's one that everyone faces at some point. Trust doesn't always guarantee honesty. People lie for all sorts of reasons: fear, shame, self-preservation, or simply to avoid conflict. The lies may be small and seemingly insignificant, or they may be monumental, shaking the foundation of your relationship with them. Regardless, the result is the same. Trust is broken, and you're left with the unsettling truth that even the people closest to you are capable of deception. This lesson isn't about becoming paranoid or distrusting of everyone. It's about accepting that nobody is perfect, and even the people you care about most may have moments where they hide the truth. It's a reminder that trust should be earned and maintained, not assumed. It's easy to believe that the people we care for are immune to dishonesty, but this idealism sets us up for painful realizations. The hardest part is not necessarily the lie itself, but the betrayal of your expectations. You trusted someone, and that trust was violated. But this painful lesson teaches you the importance of discernment and boundaries. It forces you to recognize that while trust is vital, it should never be blind. People lie, and sometimes it's not about you, it's about their own insecurities and fears. The key is not to let the lies destroy you, but to learn from them and move forward with eyes wide open. Regret lasts longer than fear. Fear is temporary. It spikes in the moment, gripping you with anxiety, hesitation, or self-doubt. But as time passes, the fear often fades, leaving behind only the faint memory of what once held you back. Regret, on the other hand, is enduring. It settles deep into your mind and heart, a constant reminder of the chances you didn't take, the decisions you avoided, and the dreams you left unpursued. Fear might stop you from acting, but it's regret that will linger long after the moment has passed. constantly whispering, "What if?" This is the paradox of life. While fear makes you hesitate, regret makes you wish you had acted. In those moments of fear, it feels easier to stay still, to hold back, to avoid taking risks. But when the fear subsides, what remains is the painful realization that you could have done something, tried harder, or pushed past your limits. The weight of regret is far heavier than the fleeting discomfort of fear, and it doesn't go away. It wears you down, reminding you of missed opportunities, roads not traveled, and dreams left behind. Fear might keep you from making a decision, but regret is the price you pay for not making the decision. The truth is, you'll often find that the pain of regret lasts far longer and cuts deeper than any fear you could face in the moment. It's the cost of inaction, the haunting reminder that sometimes the biggest risk is doing nothing at all. You can't fix others by breaking yourself. This truth hits hard because so many of us fall into the trap of thinking that if we just give more, sacrifice more, we can help someone else heal or change. It feels noble, even heroic, to put others first, to suffer for their sake, or to carry their burdens. But the painful reality is that you can't save someone else at the expense of your own well-being. In fact, by breaking yourself down in the process, you only diminish your ability to help them in the long run. When you pour all your energy into trying to fix others, you risk losing sight of yourself. You neglect your own needs, health, and happiness in the hopes that your love, effort, or support will be the key to their transformation. But people change only when they are ready to do so, not because you sacrifice everything for them. In the end, you may find yourself worn out, resentful, and bitter, with the other person still stuck in their own patterns. And instead of fixing them, you've only caused more damage to yourself. This lesson isn't about abandoning people who need help, but about recognizing that your responsibility is to care for yourself first. If you constantly deplete yourself trying to fix others, you'll have nothing left to give. True support comes from a place of balance, where you maintain your own strength and health while offering love and help from a secure foundation. You can't save someone by breaking your own spirit. The only way to truly help is by ensuring you're whole yourself. The world rewards confidence, not competence. This is a hard-hitting truth that many people struggle to accept, especially in a society that often values skills and knowledge over all else. You can be the most talented, capable, and intelligent person in the room, but if you don't project confidence, you'll find that others might not recognize your worth. In a world driven by perception, how you present yourself is often more important than what you actually know or can do. People are drawn to certainty, decisiveness, and the ability to assert oneself. Confidence, whether earned or not, opens doors, commands attention, and garners respect, often more than raw competence ever could. Think about the people who succeed effortlessly, seemingly without the best qualifications or experience. They often succeed not because of their skills, but because they exude confidence in their abilities, their ideas, and their vision. Confidence makes you appear capable, even if you're still figuring things out. On the other hand, competent individuals who lack confidence often go unnoticed, even when they're the ones with the actual skills to back up their words. This isn't to say competence isn't important. It absolutely is, but it's the belief in your own abilities that will make others believe in them too. The world will not wait for you to prove your worth with competence alone. It will judge you based on how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how you act. The key is not to fake it, but to find the courage to believe in your own potential, even if you're still growing. Confidence doesn't guarantee success, but without it, competence is unlikely to ever be noticed. Most opportunities don't come twice. This lesson is a hard truth that often strikes when it's too late. Opportunities are fleeting. They don't hang around, waiting for you to make up your mind or muster the courage to act. The world moves fast, and once an opportunity passes, it's gone forever. You might look back and wish you had taken that job, made that decision, or reached out to that person. But by then, the moment has passed and the door has closed. The brutal reality is that most opportunities don't knock twice. They're like windows that open for a brief moment, offering a glimpse into a future that could be, but only if you're ready to seize it. It's easy to get caught up in overthinking or waiting for the perfect moment. We convince ourselves that there will be another chance, another time, another offer, but that's rarely how it works. Opportunities are time sensitive. They come at their own pace, often without warning, and vanish just as quickly. And while you may get other opportunities in life, they rarely present themselves in the same way, with the same potential, or at the same time. This truth forces you to confront your fears, doubts, and insecurities head on. It challenges you to act decisively and without hesitation, because waiting too long might mean losing out forever. The clock is ticking, and every moment spent in indecision is a moment lost. Embrace the opportunities when they arise, because most of them won't come again. Once you accept this, you'll stop procrastinating and start grabbing life's chances before they slip through your fingers. Failure is feedback. Failure isn't the end. It's a stepping stone, a lesson disguised as defeat. The harsh sting of failure often feels personal, as if it's a reflection of our inadequacies. But in reality, failure is simply feedback, providing valuable insight into what didn't work, where you fell short, and how you can adjust moving forward. It's a teacher, not a punishment. When things don't go as planned, instead of allowing failure to crush your spirit, see it as an opportunity to recalibrate. What went wrong? What can you do differently? How can you grow from this experience? The difference between those who succeed and those who give up lies in their relationship with failure. Most people fear it, run from it, or allow it to define them. But those who succeed understand that failure is part of the process. It's not an indication that you're not good enough. It's proof that you've tried, that you've stepped out of your comfort zone, and that you've learned something valuable. The most successful people have failed many times, not because they're invincible, but because they view each failure as a piece of crucial feedback that gets them one step closer to their goal. Failure teaches you resilience, adaptability, and innovation. It strips away the illusions of perfection and reminds you that growth happens in the messy, uncomfortable moments. Embrace failure for what it truly is, a chance to learn, improve, and come back stronger. The real failure is not in falling, but in refusing to rise again. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Pain is a universal experience, a constant in life. Whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, pain will find its way into all of our lives at some point. It can come from loss, failure, rejection, or simply the struggles of daily life. No one is exempt. But here's where the power lies. While pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. Suffering happens when we resist pain, when we allow it to consume us and shape our entire perspective. It's when we wallow in our misfortune, replaying the hurt over and over, attaching ourselves to it as though it defines who we are. Suffering arises when we allow pain to control us, to dictate how we live and how we see the world. But suffering doesn't need to be the natural consequence of pain. You can feel the sting of loss, the weight of disappointment, or the sharpness of failure without letting those moments determine your happiness, your future, or your identity. Pain is part of the human experience, but how we respond to it is where the choice lies. We can choose to heal, to grow, and to move forward, or we can choose to remain stuck in the suffering. The truth is, suffering is often self-inflicted. When we accept pain as a natural part of life, rather than an injustice or a punishment, we free ourselves from its grip. Pain will come, but how long you let it control you is entirely in your hands. You won't always get closure. This is one of the most difficult realities to face, especially when you're dealing with unresolved situations or relationships that leave you yearning for understanding. The truth is, life doesn't always offer the neat endings or final answers we crave. People don't always apologize when they should. Situations don't always make sense, and sometimes you'll never hear the words that would bring peace to your heart. Whether it's a breakup, a lost friendship, or an unfinished project, the closure you imagine, the one where everything is explained and the loose ends are tied, may never come. This can leave you feeling unsettled, incomplete, and haunted by what-ifs. But here's the unsettling truth. Closure isn't something anyone else can give you. It's not a gift that will be delivered on a silver platter once the other person acknowledges their wrongdoing or explains their actions. Closure has to come from within. It's a decision to stop waiting for someone else to provide the answers or heal your wounds. You have to learn to find peace in the ambiguity, to accept that some things won't be fully explained, and that's okay. It's a painful process, but ultimately, it's about taking control of your own healing. Life is messy, and not everything will resolve in the way you want it to. But as long as you keep waiting for someone or something else to give you closure, you remain stuck. The key is to release the expectation of a perfect resolution and make peace with the fact that sometimes the only closure you'll get is the one you create for yourself. People remember how you made them feel, not what you said. This powerful truth transcends words and actions, cutting right to the core of human connection. You might think that the things you say, your well-thought-out advice, your carefully chosen words will be what people remember about you. But the reality is, it's not the specific phrases or arguments that stick with them. It's the emotional impact you leave behind, how you made them feel in your presence, whether they felt seen, heard, respected, or uplifted. That's what remains long after the conversation ends. We've all experienced it. A person might say something you've long forgotten, but the way they made you feel lingers. You might remember a moment of kindness that lifted your spirits, or a harsh word that left you feeling small. The emotions tied to those interactions are what shape your memories, not the content of the conversation. This is why sometimes, even in disagreements or difficult moments, it's the underlying tone and energy that people remember, not the specifics of what was said. This truth calls attention to the power of emotional intelligence and empathy. Words are important, but it's the emotional atmosphere you create that defines your relationships. Are you leaving people feeling empowered, understood, and valued, or are they walking away from you feeling drained, dismissed, or hurt? You may forget what people say to you, but you will always remember how they made you feel. This lesson reminds us that, at the end of the day, emotional impact is what makes the most lasting impression. You can't control others, only yourself. This truth is liberating and frustrating at the same time. We often find ourselves desperately trying to change other people, their behaviors, their decisions, their attitudes, hoping that by controlling them, we can create the outcomes we desire. Whether it's a partner who doesn't understand you, a colleague who isn't pulling their weight, or a friend who doesn't meet your expectations, we often find ourselves frustrated, trying to influence or manipulate others to fit into our vision of what's right. But the hard truth is, you have no control over other people. Their choices, feelings, and actions are beyond your influence. This doesn't mean you should stop caring or trying to communicate effectively, but it does mean that you need to stop putting your energy into trying to change someone else's behavior. The only person you have complete control over is yourself. You control your reactions, your mindset, your choices, and your actions. It's only when you accept this fact that true peace can enter your life. When you focus on controlling your own responses and behavior, you stop wasting energy on things you can't change and start focusing on what you can, your own growth, your own happiness, your own peace. This realization forces you to stop waiting for others to change and empowers you to change yourself. It frees you from the constant disappointment of trying to force someone to act a certain way. The power to shape your life, your relationships, and your outcomes lies in your ability to control your own mind, emotions, and actions, not in controlling others. If you want respect, set boundaries. Respect isn't something that's automatically granted. It's earned, and more importantly, it's maintained through clear and consistent boundaries. This lesson is often overlooked, especially by those who are afraid of upsetting others or who believe that being agreeable at all costs will earn them respect. The truth is, without boundaries, you're allowing others to define how they treat you. You're giving up your power to decide what is acceptable and what isn't in your interactions with them. Boundaries are a way of teaching people how to treat you. They are the lines you draw that protect your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. When you don't set boundaries, you invite people to take advantage of your time, energy, and kindness. You may end up feeling drained, used, or disrespected, all because you didn't make it clear where your limits lie. Setting boundaries isn't about being rude or unkind. It's about standing up for yourself and ensuring that your needs and values are respected. It's often difficult to set boundaries, especially with people who are used to having unlimited access to you. But the moment you start setting and enforcing those limits, you'll notice a shift. People will begin to treat you with the respect you deserve because they know what is and isn't acceptable. Boundaries create a framework of mutual respect, and without them, you will continue to give without receiving what you need. To gain respect, you must first respect yourself enough to draw those lines and honor them. Not making a decision is still a decision. This truth is one that many people avoid because it forces them to confront the consequences of inaction. We often believe that by not choosing, we're avoiding mistakes or keeping our options open. But the reality is, indecision itself is a decision, and it comes with its own set of consequences. When you hesitate or delay, you allow life to make the choice for you. Opportunities slip away, people move on, and your circumstances evolve, often in ways you never intended. The longer you wait, the more control you lose over your own fate. By choosing not to decide, you're passively accepting the status quo, or worse, letting fear guide your actions. The fear of making the wrong choice often paralyzes us. But the truth is, not deciding is just as risky, if not more. Life doesn't stop just because you're unsure. It keeps moving, and the window of opportunity closes whether you act or not. In fact, indecision is often the result of trying to avoid discomfort, the discomfort of uncertainty, failure, or responsibility. But the longer you allow indecision to dictate your life, the more entrenched you become in a cycle of passivity and regret. Choosing to make a decision, even if it's imperfect, puts you in control. It gives you agency and momentum, even if you're uncertain about the outcome. At least you're actively shaping your future rather than letting it passively unfold. So, whether it's about relationships, career moves, or personal growth, remember, not making a decision is, in itself, a decision with consequences you'll eventually have to face. What you do daily defines your future. This is one of those hard truths that force you to face your own habits head on. The way you spend your days is the blueprint of the life you will ultimately build. Every small decision you make, whether it's choosing to work a little harder, invest in yourself, or even procrastinate, compounds over time and shapes your future. The daily choices you make may seem insignificant in the moment, but they create the momentum that drives you forward or holds you back. It's easy to overlook the power of the everyday routine, thinking that big moments or grand gestures will determine your success. But it's the simple, consistent actions that truly define where you'll end up. The truth is, your future isn't some far-off event that's dictated by chance or luck. It's a direct result of what you do today. If you make excuses, waste time, or choose comfort over growth, your future will be a reflection of those decisions. On the other hand, If you commit to showing up every day, working on your goals, and making incremental improvements, you will be amazed at how much progress you make over time. The small, seemingly insignificant actions you take today build the foundation of your tomorrow. This lesson forces you to take ownership of your life. It challenges you to take a hard look at your daily routine and make the necessary changes, no matter how small. Every day is an opportunity to move closer to the life you want, and the habits you form today will determine whether you reach your potential or stay stagnant. Your future is not something that just happens. It's something you create through what you do today. You'll never feel ready. Start anyway. Waiting for the perfect moment, the ideal set of circumstances, or the feeling of being fully prepared is a trap that keeps you stuck in perpetual indecision. The truth is, you'll never feel completely ready. There will always be a lingering doubt, a voice in your head telling you that you need just a little more time, more practice, or more certainty. But this moment of readiness never comes, because growth doesn't happen in the comfort of feeling prepared. It happens in the messy, uncomfortable act of starting. We often convince ourselves that we'll know when we're ready, that there will be a moment of clarity when all the pieces finally fall into place. But that moment is a mirage. The real clarity comes only after you take the first step, after you push yourself into the unknown and start figuring things out along the way. Every successful person has faced the same fear, the same uncertainty, and the same doubt. What set them apart wasn't that they were ready, but that they started anyway. Starting before you feel ready forces you to learn on the fly, adapt, and grow in ways you never could have imagined if you waited for the right time. The discomfort of starting is the very thing that propels you forward, teaching you more than any amount of preparation ever could. So, stop waiting for permission, stop searching for the perfect moment, and start now. You'll never feel ready, but you can make yourself ready by taking action. The first step is the hardest, but it's the one that leads to everything you want. Nice people get used, kind people set limits. The difference between being nice and being kind is subtle but crucial, and it often determines how others treat you. Nice people tend to avoid conflict at all costs, often putting others' needs before their own in the hope that it will lead to acceptance or love. They bend over backward to please, fearing that saying no will make them appear unkind or selfish. The problem with this approach is that it often leads to being taken advantage of. Nice people, because they are constantly trying to make others happy, can easily be exploited by those who see their kindness as a weakness. On the other hand, kind people understand that true compassion includes respecting themselves and others. Kindness doesn't mean sacrificing your own well-being for the sake of someone else's comfort. Kind people recognize that in order to truly help others, they must first take care of themselves. Setting limits is not about being cold or unfeeling. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable and should not be given away without consideration. When you set boundaries, you protect your own needs while still showing compassion toward others. You teach people how to treat you by showing that your kindness isn't unlimited and it must be reciprocated. Kindness, when paired with clear limits, fosters respect. Nice people may get used and drained, but kind people create healthy relationships where both parties benefit. Boundaries are not a sign of unkindness. They are a sign of self-respect and true compassion. Your reputation takes years to build and seconds to destroy. This truth is both a cautionary tale and a reminder of the power of perception. Everything you do, the way you act, the promises you keep, and the relationships you build slowly constructs your reputation over time. It's the sum of your actions, the trust you foster, and the integrity you display. For years, you can work hard to prove yourself, to show that you are dependable, capable, and trustworthy. But despite all that effort, it takes just a single mistake, a moment of poor judgment, or a momentary lapse in character to tear it all down. This is the weight of reputation. It's fragile and easily shattered. One wrong move, one betrayal of trust, or a poorly timed decision can spread faster than you realize, especially in today's interconnected world. People will remember that mistake, and often they'll forget the years of hard work and honesty that came before it. The harsh truth is that you can spend a lifetime building a solid foundation, but a single moment of weakness can make it all crumble in the eyes of others. What's even more unsettling is that reputation isn't just about what you say or do in private. It's about how others perceive your actions, often without full context. This makes it incredibly easy for misunderstandings, rumors, or misinterpretations to destroy everything you've built. The key here is to recognize that your actions matter, always, because the smallest misstep can carry consequences far beyond what you expect. Protect your reputation like you would your most valuable asset, because once it's tarnished, rebuilding it takes a lot more time than it ever took to destroy it. Everyone is replaceable, even you. This painful truth cuts to the heart of our sense of identity and importance. No matter how special or irreplaceable we feel in our roles, relationships, or careers, the cold reality is that everyone can be replaced. The world doesn't stop when someone leaves, and life moves on even when you're no longer there. You might be the most valued person in your job, your family, or your social circle, but the moment you step away, someone else will step in to fill the gap. It's a humbling reminder that no matter how much we contribute or how unique we think we are all part of a larger, ever-turning cycle. At first, this truth can feel crushing. It may make you feel insignificant, like your efforts and presence don't matter in the grand scheme. But there's another side to this reality. The knowledge that you can be replaced should free you from the burden of thinking you have to be perfect or indispensable. It teaches you that while your contributions are valuable, your worth doesn't hinge on being irreplaceable. It's about recognizing that your impact is not measured by your permanence, but by the quality of the connections you make, the work you do, and the legacy you leave behind. Ultimately, this lesson urges you to live with intention and awareness. Knowing you can be replaced allows you to focus on what really matters, building meaningful relationships, making a lasting impact, and living fully in the present. It's not about avoiding replacement, but about making sure the time you spend while you're here counts. What you allow continues. This lesson is a powerful reminder that our boundaries shape our lives. The things we tolerate, the behavior we accept, and the situations we allow to persist in our lives are often the very things that hold us back or cause us pain. Whether it's accepting disrespect, staying in toxic relationships, or letting bad habits continue unchecked, what we allow in our lives doesn't just pass, it reinforces itself. Every time you let something slide, every time you ignore a red flag or stay silent in the face of mistreatment, you're giving that thing permission to continue. It's like planting seeds of discomfort and suffering, only to watch them grow into something bigger over time. This doesn't mean you should be rigid or unkind in your expectations, but it does mean that you have to take responsibility for what you permit in your life. By not speaking up for yourself, by not setting clear boundaries, you allow people to take advantage of your time, your energy, and your well-being. And when you allow these things to continue unchecked, they become a pattern, one that gets harder to break with each passing day. Recognizing this truth is empowering because it puts the power back in your hands. You are the one who decides what stays in your life and what goes. The things you tolerate are the things that will keep showing up, repeating themselves in one form or another. If you want change, you have to stop allowing the things that no longer serve you. It's not about being harsh or unforgiving. It's about valuing yourself enough to set boundaries that protect your peace, your happiness, and your growth. What you allow continues, so choose wisely what you're willing to let into your life. Most people quit right before it gets good. This truth is one of the most heartbreaking yet empowering lessons. So many people give up just as they're on the verge of breakthrough, thinking that the struggle they're enduring is a sign of inevitable failure. They don't realize that success, growth, and achievement are often just beyond the point where things seem hardest. When you're in the midst of challenges, it's easy to believe that nothing is working, that you're not making progress, or that you're simply not cut out for it. The pressure, the frustration, and the exhaustion cloud your judgment, and you start questioning whether it's all worth it. But the reality is, the path to success is rarely linear. It's filled with setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when everything seems like it's falling apart. It's in these moments, when you feel like quitting the most, that the real growth happens. Just before things get better, it often feels like they're at their worst. The key difference between those who succeed and those who give up is persistence, the ability to push through the hardest moments, to continue even when it feels like the finish line is just out of reach. Most people quit because they can't see the reward that's waiting for them. They give up when they're at their lowest point, not knowing that the breakthrough is just around the corner. Success comes to those who endure, who refuse to quit when the struggle seems endless. The next time you feel like giving up, remember, you might be closer to your breakthrough than you think. People love to see you doing well, just not better than them. This truth hits hard because it exposes the uncomfortable reality of human nature. While many people claim to want the best for you, the moment your success surpasses theirs, that support can quickly turn into envy, resentment, or even subtle sabotage. People enjoy seeing you rise as long as it doesn't threaten their own position or make them feel inferior. Success can be inspiring, but when it begins to highlight someone else's shortcomings or expose their own fears of inadequacy, it's no longer celebrated. Instead, it becomes a source of discomfort for them. It's easy to be supported by others when you're in the same boat, struggling together or working toward the same small goals. But the moment you leap ahead, especially in ways they haven't, that camaraderie can dissolve. People may start to distance themselves, criticize your efforts, or even pretend not to notice your achievements. They may act as if your success isn't as impressive or deserving as it really is. This doesn't mean they don't care about you. It means that human nature often resists comparison, and success triggers that comparison in ways people might not even be aware of. What's crucial to understand is that this isn't personal. It's not a reflection of your worth or ability. It's a reflection of the discomfort others feel when they perceive your progress as outpacing their own. While this can be disheartening, it's also freeing. Recognizing that not everyone will cheer you on once you surpass them gives you the freedom to stop seeking validation from people who are only comfortable with you in a limited space. Your success is yours to own, regardless of how others react to it. You are not your mistakes. This is one of the most liberating truths you can come to understand. Yet, it's often the hardest to accept. We all make mistakes, big and small, but the worst thing you can do is define yourself by them. A mistake is an event, a choice, a moment. It does not define who you are as a person. Yet, many of us find ourselves trapped in the shame of our past failures, convinced that we are the sum of our worst decisions. We hold on to guilt, regret, and self-criticism, letting them shape our identity and cloud our potential. But the truth is, your mistakes are just part of your journey, not the entirety of your story. You are not the bad decisions you've made, the things you've said, or the paths you've taken that didn't work out. Those mistakes are lessons, not labels. They're opportunities for growth, for learning, and for becoming better. The real tragedy lies in letting those moments of failure define you, when in fact, they are simply part of the process of becoming who you're meant to be. This lesson forces you to separate yourself from your past. It encourages you to forgive yourself, to let go of the guilt, and to start viewing your mistakes as stepping stones rather than anchors. You are not your mistakes, and you are not doomed by them. What matters is who you choose to be now, how you rise from the mistakes, how you learn, and how you continue forward. The power to redefine yourself is in your hands, and it starts with the acceptance that you are not defined by your past. Time heals nothing if you don't work on yourself. We often hold on to the hope that time will heal our wounds, that with enough distance from a painful event or a difficult experience, we'll somehow feel better. But time in itself doesn't fix anything. It simply passes. If you don't actively work on your healing, growth, and self-improvement, the scars of the past will remain hidden beneath the surface, quietly influencing your decisions and your life. Time doesn't have a magical power to erase emotional pain or psychological wounds. It's only when you actively confront your pain, reflect on your experiences, and take steps to heal that you can truly move forward. The idea that time heals is an illusion that keeps us from doing the difficult inner work required for growth. Sure, the intensity of grief or anger might fade with time, but that doesn't mean the underlying issues are resolved. Without taking conscious action to understand yourself, forgive yourself and others, and address the emotional baggage you carry, time only deepens the wounds, embedding them in your subconscious until they manifest in unhealthy patterns, behaviors, or new struggles. True healing comes from within. It requires facing the truth, breaking free from unhealthy cycles, and choosing to move beyond past hurts. Time may make things easier to bear, but it's the work you do on yourself that allows you to truly heal. The power to heal is not in the passage of time. It's in your willingness to change, reflect, and grow. Without that effort, time simply leaves you stuck in the same place. You attract what you are, not what you want. This is a harsh but liberating truth about the power of self-awareness and personal growth. We often focus on what we want in life: a successful career, a loving relationship, financial stability, or happiness. We think that if we just wish for it hard enough or chase it relentlessly, it will eventually come to us. But the truth is, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. The energy you put out into the world, the way you see yourself, and the beliefs you hold about your worth will inevitably draw people and experiences that match that energy. If you feel unworthy of love or success, you'll subconsciously surround yourself with people who reinforce that belief, or you'll block yourself from opportunities that challenge those limitations. If you have a mindset of scarcity, you'll attract situations where resources seem limited. On the other hand, if you carry a sense of self-respect, confidence, and abundance, you'll attract people and situations that reflect those qualities. The way you view yourself and the energy you project sets the tone for what comes into your life. This isn't about magic or wishful thinking. It's about alignment. The world mirrors back to you what you put out. If you want better relationships, start by becoming the kind of person who attracts the type of people you desire. If you want success, embody the qualities of discipline, resilience, and growth. Change begins within. When you transform the way you see and value yourself, you begin to attract everything you've been searching for. Sometimes the problem is you. This is one of the hardest truths to confront because it requires you to look inward and take full accountability for the challenges in your life. It's easy to blame external circumstances, other people, or bad luck for the things that aren't going right. But the reality is, sometimes the biggest obstacle standing in your way is yourself, your mindset, your habits, your unwillingness to change, or your inability to see your own flaws. We often find it easier to point fingers than to recognize that we are a part of the equation. But the moment you accept this uncomfortable truth, real growth can begin. It's not about self-blame or self-loathing. It's about recognizing that you have control over certain aspects of your life. When things aren't working out, you need to ask yourself, am I the one sabotaging my own success? Am I avoiding the work I need to do? Am I stuck in patterns that are preventing me from moving forward? Sometimes we stay in unhealthy situations, tolerate toxic behaviors, or allow our fears to keep us from taking risks. The truth is, we have a responsibility to recognize these self-imposed barriers and break through them. Acknowledging that sometimes the problem is you doesn't mean you are the problem. It means you have the power to change, to adapt, and to create a different outcome. When you can look at your own role in the difficulties you face, you unlock the power to make different choices and take the necessary steps to improve. Growth starts when you stop waiting for the world to change and start changing yourself. No response is a response. This is a hard truth that many of us refuse to accept, especially when we're waiting for an answer. Whether it's a text, an email, or a question in person, the absence of a reply can feel like an endless void, leaving us in limbo, wondering what went wrong or why they didn't respond. But the reality is that silence speaks volumes. When someone chooses not to respond, that in itself is a response. It's a way of saying something without using words. Maybe they're not interested, maybe they don't have the emotional energy, or maybe they're avoiding a difficult conversation. Whatever the reason, silence often reveals more than words could ever express. This truth forces you to confront a painful reality. Sometimes people choose not to engage with you, and their silence is their way of setting boundaries, protecting themselves, or simply not valuing the connection as much as you do. It's easy to get caught up in overanalyzing, questioning what you did wrong, or assuming the worst. But the truth is, their silence is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their feelings, priorities, or limitations. Learning to accept that no response is, in fact, a response is liberating. It frees you from the emotional trap of waiting for validation, allowing you to move on and focus your energy where it's appreciated. Instead of being stuck in the uncertainty of silence, you can begin to value your own worth without needing external confirmation. Silence is not always rejection. Sometimes it's simply a reminder that you deserve more than the empty space it leaves behind. You'll be misunderstood often. Accept it. No matter how clear you think you're being, no matter how much you try to express your true intentions, there will always be moments when others misinterpret you. You'll be judged, misunderstood, and sometimes even misrepresented. It's frustrating and painful, especially when you know your intentions were good or your actions were in alignment with your values. But the reality is that you cannot control how others perceive you. People see the world through their own lens, colored by their experiences, biases, and insecurities. Even the most well-meaning gestures can be misread, and your words can be twisted, no matter how carefully you choose them. This truth can be deeply unsettling, especially for those who seek validation or understanding from others. It's tempting to try to explain yourself to everyone, to clear up every misunderstanding, but doing so is a never-ending battle. No matter how much you try to make others understand you, there will always be some who don't, and that's something you have to come to terms with. The key to peace in this reality is acceptance. Understand that being misunderstood is part of being human. You cannot expect everyone to get you, and trying to make that happen will only lead to frustration. Instead, focus on being authentic to yourself, knowing that your truth is enough. The right people will understand you, and for those who don't, their misunderstanding says more about them than it does about you. Let go of the need for universal approval and embrace the freedom that comes from living true to yourself. Knowledge without action is useless. This lesson cuts through the illusion that simply knowing something is enough. We often collect information, reading books, attending seminars, listening to podcasts, and believe that knowledge alone will lead to success. But knowledge, no matter how vast or profound, means nothing unless it's put into action. In fact, the more knowledge you accumulate without acting on it, the more it becomes a form of procrastination. You end up stuck in the cycle of learning without ever stepping forward. The truth is, action is what transforms knowledge into results. You can know the theory behind running a business, writing a book, or getting fit, but without taking the actual steps, without applying what you know, all that knowledge is wasted. It becomes an intellectual exercise with no real-world impact. It's like owning a map, but never leaving your house to follow the route. Information doesn't create change on its own. It's the action you take based on that knowledge that shapes your reality. Taking action brings clarity, creates momentum, and transforms theoretical concepts into tangible outcomes. The most successful people aren't those who know the most, but those who are willing to act on what they know. It's through doing, through taking risks, making mistakes, and trying again, that knowledge becomes meaningful. So, stop collecting information and start applying it. Knowledge is only powerful when it's used to create change. You can't buy character. This is a truth that many overlook in a world obsessed with wealth, status, and material success. You can buy luxury, power, and even influence, but character is something that money cannot procure. It's built through actions, choices, and values that are developed over time. Character is about integrity, honesty, compassion, and the way you treat others when no one is watching. No matter how much wealth or recognition you accumulate, your true character will always be reflected in how you behave when the spotlight isn't on you. In a society that often equates success with financial gain, it's easy to get lost in the idea that having more means being more. But the truth is, no amount of money can replace a lack of character. You can have all the accolades, the luxury cars, and the best clothes, but if your heart is selfish, your actions deceitful, or your behavior hurtful, none of that outward success will matter in the long run. People will see through the facade, and the emptiness of a life without integrity will become apparent. Character isn't something that can be bought or faked. It's something that's earned over time through the choices you make, the values you uphold, and the respect you show for others. True respect and admiration come from who you are, not what you have. And the legacy you leave behind will be shaped by your character, not by your bank account. The harsh reality is that you can accumulate everything the world offers, but without character, it will all feel hollow. The hardest person to be honest with is yourself. This is one of the most challenging truths to face because it requires you to confront the parts of yourself that you may have been avoiding for years. We often lie to ourselves, telling ourselves things that feel comfortable or convenient, even when deep down we know they aren't true. It's easier to deceive yourself than to face the uncomfortable truths about your behavior, your choices, or your dreams. You convince yourself that things are fine, that you're happy, or that you're making progress, all while ignoring the parts of your life that need attention. It's easier to lie to yourself than to deal with the pain that comes with honesty. The hardest part about being honest with yourself is that you have to be brutally clear about your flaws, your fears, and your deepest insecurities. You have to stop making excuses and stop hiding behind denial. Whether it's facing a toxic relationship, admitting that you've been holding yourself back, or acknowledging that you're not living up to your potential, self-honesty forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality of where you are versus where you want to be. The truth is, being honest with yourself is often painful. It might make you feel vulnerable, weak, or exposed, but it's also the first step to real change. When you stop lying to yourself, you free yourself to grow, to make real progress, and to become the person you're truly meant to be. The hardest person to be honest with is yourself, because you're the one you've been hiding from the longest. But once you learn to look yourself in the mirror and accept the truth, you unlock the power to transform your life. Growth feels lonely. The path to personal development and success is often a solitary one. As you push yourself to evolve, to change, and to reach higher levels, you may find that the people around you don't always understand or support your journey. You might feel isolated, disconnected, or even abandoned by those who were once close to you. The truth is, Growth requires a level of discomfort and transformation that others may not be ready to embrace. The habits, beliefs, and behaviors that served you in the past often no longer align with the person you're becoming, and that gap can create a sense of loneliness as you outgrow relationships, environments, and even parts of yourself. It's in these moments of isolation that you question whether the sacrifices are worth it. You look around and see others staying the same, while you're changing in ways that might be unrecognizable to them and even to yourself. Growth often demands you step away from familiar territory, face your fears, and challenge your limitations. And this can feel incredibly lonely because you're navigating a new version of yourself that others may not relate to or understand. But this loneliness is a natural part of the process. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong, it's proof that you're evolving. Embrace it as a sign of your progress. The loneliness you feel now will eventually give way to the person you're meant to be. And along the way, you'll find new connections, new perspectives, and a deeper sense of self. Growth might feel lonely in the moment, but it's through this solitude that you'll discover your true strength. People respect consistency more than talent. Talent may get attention, but consistency earns respect. It's easy to be dazzled by natural ability. The person who seems to excel effortlessly, who impresses with their innate skill. But talent alone doesn't always lead to success, and it certainly doesn't build long-term respect. The reality is, talent without consistency is like a spark that flickers and fades, while consistency is the steady flame that keeps burning day after day. People admire those who show up time and time again, no matter the circumstances. It's the person who keeps pushing, even when things aren't going well. It's the one who doesn't quit, who sticks to their goals with relentless dedication. This is what earns real respect. Talent might give someone a head start, but it's consistency, the ability to keep going when the excitement wears off and the novelty fades, that truly sets people apart. When you commit to a process, to doing the work even when no one is watching, others take notice. They see your perseverance, your reliability, and your unwavering determination, and that's what makes them respect you. Talent can open doors, but consistency is what keeps them open. It's not about being the best from the start. It's about being the one who keeps improving, learning, and growing. Over time, consistency creates a reputation of trust and dependability that talent alone could never build. You won't always get second chances. This is one of the most sobering truths about life. Opportunities don't come around again, and sometimes, once you miss a chance, it's gone forever. We often live with the hope that there will always be another shot, another moment, or another time to make things right. We procrastinate, delay, or take things for granted, believing that life will always give us another opportunity to fix our mistakes or seize that elusive dream. But the truth is, second chances are not guaranteed. The window for some opportunities is brief, and once it closes, it might never reopen. Whether it's a relationship you didn't nurture, a job opportunity you hesitated on, or a moment to express your feelings to someone, life doesn't always offer a do-over. Every moment you delay, every chance you fail to take could be the one that never comes back. This is a painful realization, especially when you find yourself looking back with regret, wishing you had acted sooner or differently. The harsh truth is that time waits for no one, and some decisions or opportunities are fleeting. Once they're gone, they're gone. But recognizing this reality can also be freeing. It pushes you to act when the moment is right, to stop waiting for the perfect time that may never come. Life is about seizing opportunities when they present themselves and not assuming they'll be available again. Don't let fear, doubt, or complacency rob you of your future. Sometimes the only chance you'll get is the one you take now. Your ego is your biggest enemy. This is a brutal truth that many people are unwilling to face because our ego is deeply tied to our sense of identity and self-worth. It whispers to us, inflating our pride, fueling our insecurities, and pushing us to protect ourselves at all costs. It convinces us that we're better than we are, that we deserve more than others, and that admitting fault or vulnerability is a weakness. It can blind us to our own shortcomings, making it nearly impossible to grow. The ego holds us back by feeding us the lie that we need to be constantly validated, admired, and respected in order to feel whole. It convinces us that we are separate, superior, and untouchable. The problem with the ego is that it distorts reality. It makes us react defensively, push others away, and avoid honest self-reflection. It makes us afraid to fail or to admit when we're wrong, because doing so would damage the fragile image we've built of ourselves. The ego tricks us into believing we are invincible or above reproach, when in reality, it's only making us more vulnerable. The more we feed it, the stronger it becomes, and the harder it is to see things clearly or make the changes necessary for personal growth. But when you learn to quiet your ego, you free yourself. You start to embrace humility, vulnerability, and truth. You stop needing constant validation from the outside world, and you start focusing on what really matters: growth, connection, and authenticity. Your ego is not your ally, it's your biggest obstacle. And once you see it for what it is, you can begin to transcend it and live more fully, more honestly, and more freely. Change is painful but necessary. Change is often seen as something to fear, something that disrupts the comfort we've built. It forces us to leave behind what's familiar and venture into the unknown. And in that process, it brings pain. Change asks us to let go of parts of ourselves that no longer serve us, whether that's old habits, toxic relationships, or outdated beliefs. The discomfort comes from the fear of losing what we know, even when what we know is holding us back. But without change, growth is impossible. Change is the catalyst that propels us forward, challenging us to become better, stronger, and more aligned with our true potential. It's easy to resist change because of the pain it causes. The discomfort of stepping out of your comfort zone can be overwhelming, especially when you're faced with the uncertainty of what lies ahead. But every time you avoid change, you are choosing stagnation, a slow, quiet erosion of your potential. You may hold on to what's familiar because it feels safe, but in doing so, you keep yourself locked in a place where true growth cannot happen. While the pain of change feels intense, it's often the very thing that forces you to confront what needs to be let go of and what needs to be embraced. The discomfort is temporary, but the transformation that follows is life-changing. Change may hurt in the moment, but it's the only path to progress. Embrace it, not as something to fear, but as something necessary for the evolution of who you are meant to be. Entitlement kills potential. This is a harsh truth that many of us need to hear. Entitlement is the belief that you deserve success, recognition, or resources without having to put in the necessary work or effort. It's the mindset that says, "I've worked hard enough, so things should come to me," or "I'm special, so I shouldn't have to fight for what I want." While it's natural to feel that we deserve good things, believing we're entitled to them without earning them is a dangerous trap that stifles growth and kills potential. When you believe you're entitled to something, you stop doing the things that are necessary for achieving it. You stop pushing yourself, you stop learning, and you stop striving for improvement. Why? Because you've already convinced yourself that you deserve it, and waiting for it to be handed to you feels easier than doing the hard work. This mindset paralyzes you and keeps you stuck because you're not taking responsibility for your own success. You're waiting for it to come to you. True growth happens when you remove entitlement from your thinking and replace it with accountability and humility. Real success is earned through effort, resilience, and a willingness to learn and adapt. The more you let go of the belief that things should just be given to you, the more you realize how much control you actually have over your future. Entitlement shuts doors. A relentless pursuit of growth and personal responsibility opens them. When you let go of entitlement, you unlock your true potential and realize that the only limit to your success is the effort you're willing to put in. You'll never win arguing with a fool. This is a hard lesson for many to learn, especially when emotions run high and the need to be right feels overwhelming. The truth is, arguing with someone who refuses to listen, who is locked in their own ignorance or stubbornness, is a futile battle. No matter how logical, calm, or reasonable you are, a fool will always find a way to deflect, twist, or ignore your points. In their eyes, they're already right, and nothing you say will change that. Arguing with a fool not only drains your energy, but it also lowers your own standards. The more you try to reason, the more you get drawn into their nonsense. Instead of having a constructive conversation, you end up in a pointless cycle of frustration, where both sides feel unheard and unappreciated. The sad truth is, no matter how much you try to prove your point, you're not actually convincing them. You're just further feeding their ego or deepening their resistance to reason. It's easy to get caught in the trap of thinking that if you just explain things well enough, they'll understand. But some people are so entrenched in their beliefs or ignorance that no amount of logic will break through. The key here is to recognize when a discussion has crossed over into the realm of futility and to walk away with your dignity intact. It's not about being right. It's about knowing when to disengage and preserve your peace. Sometimes the best response to a fool is silence. Sometimes silence is your best weapon. In a world where we're constantly encouraged to speak our minds, defend ourselves, or argue our point, silence can seem like a sign of weakness. But in reality, silence is one of the most powerful tools you can wield, especially in moments of tension, conflict, or confrontation. When emotions are running high and words are being exchanged in anger or frustration, choosing to remain silent can send a message that is far more impactful than anything you could say. It forces the other person to fill the space, often revealing more than they intended, and it gives you the clarity to think and respond with intention rather than reacting impulsively. Silence has a unique ability to disarm. It can stop an argument in its tracks, create discomfort for those trying to provoke you, and leave others searching for meaning in what isn't being said. Sometimes, when someone is trying to push your buttons, the best response is no response at all. Silence speaks volumes. It tells others that you're not easily swayed, that you're not engaging in petty drama, and that you value your peace more than winning a battle of words. This truth is particularly powerful when it comes to protecting your energy. Instead of engaging in every conflict or debate, choosing silence allows you to conserve your emotional resources, avoid unnecessary stress, and maintain your dignity. Silence is not about avoiding conflict. It's about knowing when not to feed into it. In a world that prizes noise, sometimes your most powerful move is to say nothing at all. You can't build a new life with old habits. Change isn't just about thinking differently. It's about acting differently. You can dream about a new life, envision a better future, and set goals for success. But unless you break the cycle of old habits, nothing will change. Old habits are like anchors that keep you stuck in the past, preventing you from stepping into the future you want. They represent comfort, routine, and the safety of the known, even when those things are holding you back. The truth is, if you continue to operate the same way, you will keep getting the same results, no matter how hard you try to move forward. Building a new life requires building new habits. It means letting go of the things that no longer serve you, the procrastination, the negative self-talk, the distractions, or the unhealthy coping mechanisms. These habits are easy to fall back into because they're familiar, but they keep you tethered to a version of yourself that is no longer aligned with your goals. To create the life you desire, you must change your daily actions, your mindset, and your approach to challenges. This process isn't easy. It requires discipline, patience, and consistency. But every small change you make, every new habit you form, brings you one step closer to the life you've envisioned. You can't expect to create something new while holding on to the old. If you want to build a new life, you must be willing to rebuild your daily routines, your mindset, and your behaviors from the ground up. The foundation of your future starts with the habits you build today. Nobody's coming to apologize. Forgive anyway. This truth can be incredibly difficult to accept, especially when you've been wronged. We often wait for others to acknowledge their mistakes, apologize, or offer some form of accountability for the hurt they've caused. We tell ourselves that once we get the apology we deserve, we'll finally be able to move on and heal. But the painful reality is that many people will never apologize, not because they're bad people, but because they either don't recognize their wrongdoing or aren't ready to take responsibility for it. The thing is, holding on to that waiting game keeps you stuck in a cycle of anger, resentment, and emotional paralysis. You can wait forever for someone else to admit their mistakes, but it won't change your pain. And in the meantime, you're the one carrying the weight. The truth is, forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about you. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing the hurt or letting the person off the hook. It means releasing yourself from the burden of holding on to it. It's the key to freeing yourself from the emotional chains that keep you anchored to the past. When you forgive, you're not saying the offense was okay. You're saying that you refuse to let it control your life anymore. You're choosing peace over pain and healing over bitterness. So, even if no one comes to apologize, you have the power to let go and move forward. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not the person who wronged you. It's your way of reclaiming your peace, regardless of what they do. Weak boundaries lead to resentment. This is a truth that can silently poison relationships, careers, and your own peace of mind. When you don't establish clear, firm boundaries, you open the door for others to take advantage of your time, energy, and emotions. At first, it might seem harmless to say yes when you really want to say no, or to let people overstep without pushing back. But over time, this leads to a buildup of frustration. You start to feel used, drained, and unappreciated, yet because you didn't set limits, you're left to silently bear the weight of resentment. What's even worse is that the resentment often doesn't show up immediately. It sneaks in slowly as you start to feel more and more taken for granted. You may feel angry or overwhelmed, but unable to pinpoint exactly why. It's because you've allowed others to cross lines, to treat you in ways that don't honor your needs or values, and you never communicated those limits. Eventually, this emotional imbalance will take its toll. Resentment will grow, and if not addressed, it can corrode even the strongest of relationships. The key is recognizing that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. Healthy boundaries are essential to preserving your well-being and maintaining mutual respect in any relationship. When you learn to assert your needs and make it clear where you stand, you create space for healthier, more fulfilling interactions. Strong boundaries protect you from emotional exhaustion and prevent the resentment that inevitably follows when you allow others to take more than they should. Gratitude changes perspective. Gratitude is a transformative force, but it's easy to overlook its power when life feels overwhelming or unfair. When we focus on what we lack, what we haven't achieved, or the things that are going wrong, it's easy to slip into a mindset of scarcity and frustration. But gratitude shifts that focus. It forces you to look at what you do have, at the blessings and opportunities that exist, even in the midst of struggle. It reminds you that no matter how hard things get, there is always something worth appreciating. When you cultivate gratitude, your entire outlook on life changes. Suddenly, the obstacles that once felt insurmountable become manageable because you can see them in context. Instead of dwelling on what's wrong, gratitude helps you recognize the good, the growth, and the progress you've made, no matter how small. It gives you the ability to find light in the darkest of times. When you're grateful, you stop taking things for granted and start seeing the beauty in what's already in front of you, whether it's a supportive friend, a lesson learned, or a simple moment of peace. This shift in perspective is powerful. It doesn't solve every problem, but it does change how you approach them. Gratitude doesn't deny hardship, it amplifies resilience. It makes you realize that the best parts of life are often hidden in plain sight, and that happiness isn't something to wait for. It's something you can create through your perspective. Gratitude, in its simplest form, is the key to seeing the world differently. You can't have it all. Choose what matters. In a world that constantly tells you to have it all, the perfect career, the ideal relationship, the dream body, endless happiness, it's easy to get lost in the illusion that you can juggle every desire, every goal, and every expectation. But the truth is, life doesn't work that way. You can't stretch yourself thin trying to be everything to everyone, all the while ignoring your own true needs. The reality is that we only have a finite amount of time, energy, and resources. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you'll be able to focus on what truly matters and let go of the rest. Trying to chase everything can leave you feeling burned out, unfulfilled, and disconnected from your true desires. It's tempting to believe that you can do it all, but at what cost? When you spread yourself too thin, you end up giving a fraction of yourself to everything, and nothing gets your full attention or care. The key to a fulfilling life is not in trying to have everything, but in being clear about your values and priorities and choosing to focus on what aligns with them. By narrowing your focus, you give yourself the chance to excel, to feel fulfilled, and to cultivate a life that feels meaningful. It's not about having it all, it's about choosing what is truly important and making those things a priority. Life becomes richer when you choose depth over breadth, quality over quantity. You can't have everything, but you can have exactly what you need if you're willing to choose it. Life won't wait for your healing. This is one of the toughest realities to face when you're in pain. Whether it's emotional, physical, or mental, healing takes time. Time that often feels like it's slipping away, leaving you behind. You might feel like you need more time to recover, to process, to get back to a place where you feel whole again. But the world doesn't stop for your healing. The people around you continue with their lives, opportunities keep moving forward, and life itself keeps pushing you along, whether you're ready or not. It's easy to think that you can just pause everything and focus solely on your healing, but the truth is, life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. The clock keeps ticking, and the world doesn't slow down. And while you need time to heal, you can't afford to stay stuck in the process for too long. The challenge is learning how to keep moving forward, even in the midst of your pain. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens as you continue to live, engage with the world, and confront the challenges that come your way. This doesn't mean you should rush your healing or ignore the pain. It simply means that healing is a part of life, not something that happens outside of it. You can find ways to keep going while you heal, to keep participating in life even when it feels difficult. The pain might never fully go away, but you can learn to live with it, learn from it, and allow it to shape you into a stronger version of yourself. Life won't wait for your healing, but it will give you the chance to heal while you live. Success demands sacrifice. This is a harsh reality that most people ignore when dreaming about their goals. The road to success isn't paved with ease, comfort, or instant gratification. It requires sacrifices, sometimes more than you're willing to give. Whether it's your time, energy, relationships, or even your peace of mind, success demands that you give up something in order to gain what you truly desire. The path to achieving anything significant requires you to forgo the things that feel good in the moment for the things that will pay off in the future. This might mean working late when everyone else is relaxing, missing out on social events to focus on your goals, or pushing through moments of exhaustion when your body is begging for rest. Sacrifice doesn't always come with applause. In fact, it can often feel isolating. People will question your decisions, your priorities, and your relentless drive. But what they may not see is that without sacrifice, success remains a distant dream. You can't have it all, not in the way you think. The time you spend building your future often comes at the expense of the present, and that can sting. Yet, the beauty of sacrifice is that it's temporary. The years of hard work, the missed moments, and the discomfort you endure will eventually pay off. Success is not just about reaching a destination. It's about what you're willing to give up along the way to earn that place. So, when the sacrifices start to feel heavy, remember that they're the price of the life you're building. Success is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who are willing to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow. What you fear most often teaches you most. Fear has a way of holding us back, paralyzing us with the thought of what might happen if we face what terrifies us. Whether it's the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown, these fears often create walls that seem insurmountable. But the brutal truth is that what we fear most is often where the greatest lessons lie. Fear isn't just an obstacle, it's a signal. It points directly to the areas of our lives where growth is waiting. The things we are most afraid of usually carry the lessons we need to learn in order to become stronger, more resilient, and more self-aware. When you face your fears, you gain insight into your own limitations and beliefs. You discover what's truly holding you back, often not the fear itself, but the stories and assumptions you've built around it. Confronting fear forces you to dig deeper into yourself, to question your doubts, and to understand what's beneath the surface. Through that process, you learn not only about the fear itself, but also about your capacity to overcome it. You see that it's not the fear that defines you, but how you respond to it. The most painful and terrifying moments often teach us the most valuable lessons. Fear challenges you to expand beyond your comfort zone, to take risks, and to confront parts of yourself you might otherwise ignore. While fear may never fully disappear, it is in the act of facing it head-on that you unlock growth and empowerment. The lessons found in your deepest fears are the ones that shape you the most, pushing you toward the person you're meant to become. Complaining changes nothing. It's easy to fall into the habit of complaining. Life doesn't always go the way we want, and frustration often leads us to vent about what's wrong. Complaining feels cathartic in the moment, like you're releasing the pressure of a built-up frustration, but the reality is that it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't change the circumstances, doesn't improve the situation, and doesn't move you forward. It's a cycle that keeps you stuck in negativity, rehashing the same complaints without taking any meaningful action to make things better. When you complain, you focus on the problem rather than the solution. Complaining reinforces the idea that you're powerless, helpless, and at the mercy of forces beyond your control. But here's the truth. The energy you put into complaining could be better spent taking action, adjusting your mindset, or finding solutions to what's bothering you. Complaining makes you feel momentarily heard, but it does nothing to change the situation at hand. Every time you catch yourself complaining, challenge yourself to shift the focus toward what you can do. Is there something you can change? Is there an action you can take? It's in those small positive steps that real change happens. Complaining is a trap that keeps you spinning your wheels, while taking responsibility and finding solutions propels you forward. Complaining doesn't change your reality, only your actions do. So instead of feeding the frustration, choose to act. You have the power to create change, but only if you stop complaining about what you can't control. You can't hide from yourself. This is a brutal yet essential truth that many of us try to avoid. We often think we can run away from our problems, our fears, or our past by distracting ourselves with work, relationships, or substances. We hide behind busyness, denial, or the illusion of control, hoping that by avoiding the hard truths, we can escape the discomfort of facing ourselves. But no matter how far we run, we can never truly escape the person we are. Our insecurities, unresolved issues, and inner struggles will always find a way to resurface, often in ways we least expect. At some point, the things we bury inside will come to light through our actions, our relationships, or our emotions. You can ignore your fears, your regrets, or your shortcomings for a while, but they will never stay hidden forever. Eventually, they'll demand attention, often when you're least prepared to deal with them. You might even begin to see them in others, traits you despise or feel uncomfortable with because they are reflections of what you've been avoiding within yourself. The only way to truly move forward in life is to face yourself head on. Self-awareness is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also liberating. When you stop running from who you are, when you stop avoiding your flaws and fears, you begin to accept them and, in turn, grow from them. You learn that there is strength in vulnerability, and healing starts when you stop hiding and start confronting the truth about yourself. You can't escape who you are, but by facing yourself honestly, you can become the person you're meant to be. People come into your life for reasons or seasons. This is a sobering yet liberating truth. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some people come into your life to teach you something important, to help you grow, or to challenge your beliefs and perspectives. These people have a reason, a specific lesson, or experience to offer you. They might help you during a difficult time, guide you through a major decision, or simply be there to offer support when you need it most. Once their purpose is fulfilled, they may move on, and that's not a reflection of your worth or the strength of the relationship. It's simply the way life works. Then there are others who are with you for a season. These people enter your life during particular stages of your journey, during times of change, growth, or transition. They might be friends, colleagues, or even romantic partners who accompany you through certain phases but aren't meant to be permanent. As you evolve, your needs change, and so do your relationships. People in your life for a season may help you in ways you never expected, but they are not meant to be there when the next chapter begins, and that's okay. It doesn't diminish the impact they've had. It simply means that the time has come for you to continue on your path without them. Recognizing this can bring immense peace, especially when relationships end or evolve. Not everyone is meant to be a permanent fixture in your life, and that's a part of the natural ebb and flow of relationships. People come and go, but the impact they leave is often far more important than how long they stay. So, instead of clinging to those who are meant to move on, cherish the lessons they bring and embrace the changes that come with new seasons. Maturity is accepting you won't always get what you want. This truth stings because it forces you to let go of the idea that life is supposed to unfold exactly the way you've imagined. From childhood, we're conditioned to believe that if we work hard, wish enough, or do things the right way, we will eventually get what we desire. But maturity comes when you finally understand that life doesn't always operate on your terms. You won't always achieve the success you want, get the love you crave, or see your plans come to fruition. The world doesn't owe you your desires, no matter how hard you try or how much you deserve them. Learning to accept this isn't about giving up or resigning yourself to failure. It's about understanding the complexity of life and embracing its unpredictability. Maturity means recognizing that things don't always go according to plan and that disappointment is part of the process. Instead of throwing tantrums or letting frustration consume you, maturity teaches you to accept what is and adapt. You learn that life is full of unexpected turns, and it's your ability to handle those disappointments with grace that shows your true growth. This acceptance brings peace. When you stop fighting reality and start making the most of the present moment, you become more resilient, more flexible, and more prepared for whatever comes your way. It doesn't mean giving up on your dreams, but it means realizing that the path to them may not always be direct. Maturity is about letting go of the fantasy that everything will be the way you want it and finding strength in the acceptance of what is. You'll never please everyone. Focus on pleasing yourself. It's human nature to seek approval, to want validation, and to hope that others see us in the best light. But the truth is, no matter how hard you try, you'll never be able to please everyone. People have different opinions, values, and expectations. What makes one person happy might upset another, and the more you try to meet everyone's needs, the more you lose sight of your own. The relentless pursuit of others' approval is exhausting, and it often leaves you feeling unfulfilled and lost. Trying to please everyone is a trap. You stretch yourself thin, compromising your own values, desires, and happiness just to meet external expectations. In the end, you find yourself lost in the sea of others' opinions, no closer to living authentically or joyfully. The key is to stop seeking approval and start prioritizing your own happiness. When you focus on pleasing yourself, living true to your values, pursuing your passions, and being unapologetically you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of trying to meet others' expectations. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean being selfish or disregarding others. It means knowing who you are, understanding what makes you happy, and not compromising that for the sake of pleasing others. The people who truly matter will respect and love you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. Pleasing yourself isn't selfish. It's the foundation for living a life of fulfillment and authenticity. Stop trying to be everything to everyone and start being true to yourself. The right people will gravitate toward you, and that's all that truly matters. Your habits predict your future better than your dreams. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that your dreams and aspirations will define your future. We all have visions of success, the perfect job, the ideal relationship, the life we've always wanted. These dreams fuel our motivation and give us something to strive for. But the truth is, your habits, not your dreams, are the real architects of your future. What you do every single day, the small choices you make, the actions you take, and the routines you build will determine where you end up, not the aspirations you carry in your mind. Dreams are powerful, but they remain just that, dreams, if they're not backed by consistent action. Habits, however, are the actions that bring those dreams to life. They are the daily steps, no matter how small, that move you toward your goals. It's not about having a grand vision or a deep desire. It's about what you choose to do with the time you have. If your habits align with your dreams, you'll inevitably start seeing progress, even if it's slow. But if your habits don't support your goals, your dreams will remain unfulfilled. Change doesn't happen overnight. It's built by the repetitive actions you take day after day. If you want to change your life, start by changing your habits. The future you dream about will never come if you don't start creating the foundation for it now. Your habits don't lie. They reveal the truth about your priorities and your direction. Your future is being shaped by what you do right now. You can't skip the struggle. This is a hard pill to swallow, but one that's absolutely essential for growth. In a world that promises instant gratification and easy solutions, the idea of struggle seems outdated or unnecessary. We want success without the pain, rewards without the sacrifice, and progress without the obstacles. But the truth is, struggle is not only unavoidable, it's essential. The process of overcoming challenges, of facing adversity head-on, is what shapes you into who you are meant to be. It's where growth happens. Every breakthrough you'll ever experience, whether personal or professional, is forged in the fire of struggle. If you try to bypass the hard work or the difficult times, you rob yourself of the lessons and resilience that come from working through them. The struggle is where your character is built. It's where you discover what you're truly made of, where you develop the mental and emotional strength that will carry you through future challenges. The discomfort you feel in the moment is temporary, but the wisdom and strength you gain from enduring it last a lifetime. Trying to skip the struggle only sets you up for an even greater fall. Success, fulfillment, and true transformation don't come from taking shortcuts or avoiding difficulty. They come from showing up when things are tough, from embracing discomfort, and from pushing through when it seems easier to quit. There is no substitute for struggle because it's the only path to greatness. The sooner you accept that struggle is part of the journey, the more prepared you'll be to face it and emerge stronger on the other side. Sometimes you're the villain in someone's story. This is a painful truth that many of us try to avoid, but it's crucial for personal growth. No matter how good your intentions or how pure your heart, there will be times when you play the villain in someone else's narrative. We all have different perspectives, and sometimes your actions, whether deliberate or not, can hurt others or leave them feeling betrayed, misunderstood, or neglected. The truth is, you can't control how others perceive you, and sometimes, even when you're doing your best, you'll find yourself cast in a role you never intended to play. It's hard to accept that we're not always the hero in every story, especially when we feel justified in our actions. You may have made a decision that felt right at the time, but it had a ripple effect that hurt someone else. Or perhaps you had to set boundaries, and in doing so, you became the source of someone's pain. The reality is that our actions are often perceived through the lens of others' experiences, and sometimes we're not the good guy in their version of events. This lesson isn't about guilt or self-blame, but about accepting the complexity of human relationships. It teaches you to acknowledge that your actions affect others in ways you might not even realize. And sometimes those effects can be negative. It's a reminder to be compassionate, to take responsibility when necessary, and to understand that not everyone will see you the way you see yourself. Sometimes you'll be the villain, but that doesn't define you. What matters is how you learn from the experience, adjust your behavior, and move forward with greater self-awareness and empathy. The truth doesn't require your belief to remain true. We often think that if we don't believe something, it isn't real, or if we refuse to accept it, it somehow ceases to exist. This mindset can be comforting, but it's also a dangerous illusion. The truth stands firm, regardless of our feelings, opinions, or perceptions. It isn't swayed by our doubts or wishes. Whether we accept it or not, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, the truth remains unchanged. This truth can be painful to confront, especially when it challenges our beliefs or forces us to face uncomfortable realities. We all have our own truths, shaped by our experiences, biases, and desires. But just because something doesn't fit into our version of reality doesn't make it any less real. Denial or avoidance may protect us momentarily, but it never alters the truth. In fact, refusing to face it only prolongs the inevitable discomfort and keeps us from growing. The truth doesn't need our permission to exist. It doesn't need us to understand it, agree with it, or believe in it. It simply is. Accepting this allows us to stop fighting against reality and instead face it with openness and clarity. The truth can be liberating once we stop resisting it. It gives us the power to change, to adjust, and to move forward, but only if we're willing to stop pretending it's something it's not. The truth is what it is, and it doesn't need your belief to remain true. Worrying solves nothing. Worrying is one of the most exhausting and unproductive things we can do. It drains our energy, creates unnecessary stress, and clouds our ability to think clearly. Yet, we often fall into the trap of worrying about the future, fearing what might go wrong, or obsessing over things beyond our control. The truth is, worry accomplishes nothing. It doesn't change the outcome of any situation, nor does it prepare you for what's to come. All it does is paralyze you, keeping you stuck in a loop of anxiety and doubt. When you worry, you're mentally living in a future that hasn't happened yet, imagining all the worst-case scenarios without any proof they'll come true. The truth is, Most of the things we worry about never actually happen, and the ones that do are often more manageable than we feared. Worrying doesn't prevent problems, it only prevents us from dealing with them effectively when they arise. It's a waste of time and mental energy that could be better spent on taking action or finding solutions. The key to moving beyond worry is learning to focus on what you can control and letting go of the rest. Worrying about the past is useless. Worrying about the future is unnecessary. All you can do is focus on the present moment, take actionable steps, and trust that things will unfold as they should. Worry doesn't solve problems, it only creates more. Letting go of worry frees you to think clearly, act decisively, and approach life with a sense of calm and control. Real confidence is quiet. This is a powerful truth that disrupts the common misconception that confidence is loud, boastful, or attention-seeking. In a world where self-promotion and social media validation often take center stage, we've come to associate confidence with being outspoken, charismatic, and always on display. But the most genuine form of confidence is subtle. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. It's the quiet assurance in your own abilities, the calm knowing that you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Real confidence doesn't come from constant self-affirmation or the need for validation. It comes from being secure in who you are, independent of external praise or approval. It's the person who doesn't need to announce their achievements because they are comfortable with their success. It's the individual who walks into a room, not to be noticed, but because they simply belong there. There's no need for grand gestures or words to fill the silence when you carry true confidence. It's felt in your presence, in the way you handle challenges, and in how you respond to others. Quiet confidence doesn't boast or seek attention because it's rooted in self-respect and understanding. It's steady, unshakable, and doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion. The loudest voices may command attention, but the quiet confidence that comes from within commands respect. Real confidence knows it doesn't need to prove anything because it's already enough, and that quiet strength has the power to change the room, to influence, and to inspire in ways that noise never could. The mirror never lies. The mirror, in its simplest form, is a brutal truth teller. It doesn't care about your excuses, your justifications, or the image you've carefully crafted in your mind. It shows you exactly who you are, the reflection of your physical self, but also the unspoken truths that lie beneath the surface. It's easy to avoid facing the uncomfortable reality of what we see when we look at ourselves. We hide behind filters, flattering angles, and distractions. But when you stand in front of a mirror with no defenses, you face the raw truth about who you are in that moment. This can be difficult, especially when what you see is not who you want to be. The mirror doesn't allow for denial. It shows the impact of your habits, your decisions, and your state of mind, whether you're ready to confront it or not. If you're unhealthy, the mirror reflects that. If you're tired, overwhelmed, or unfulfilled, the mirror shows it too. It holds up a mirror to not just your body, but your spirit, your energy, and your authenticity. It forces you to take responsibility for the way you've been showing up in the world. The mirror doesn't judge, but it does reveal. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. When you look into the mirror and face the truth, you are given the chance to make changes, to improve, and to align your inner self with the image you truly want to project. It may not always be easy, but the mirror offers a clarity that no one else can provide. The clarity to see yourself as you really are, and to decide who you want to become. Success is rented, not owned, and rent is due daily. We often think of success as something we can achieve and then own permanently, a fixed destination we can reach and relax in. But in reality, success isn't something you possess. It's something you have to work for, maintain, and earn every single day. Just like renting an apartment, success is something that can be taken away if you stop paying the rent. The moment you stop putting in the work, stop staying disciplined, or stop pushing yourself to improve, the rent on your success becomes overdue and you'll find yourself sliding backward. This truth is both humbling and motivating. It reminds us that success isn't a one-time achievement. It's a continual process of effort, learning, and adapting. Every day, you must show up, do the work, and prove that you deserve to keep the success you've earned. Whether it's the long hours at work, maintaining relationships, or investing in personal growth, success demands consistent attention and care. If you let it slip, if you become complacent, or take things for granted, you risk losing the very thing you worked so hard to achieve. The key to lasting success is understanding that it's never guaranteed, never permanent. You have to earn it over and over again, day in and day out. Success is rented, and the rent is due daily. The moment you stop paying, you'll find that success becomes harder to keep, if not impossible to maintain. Keep showing up, keep doing the work, and remember, your success is only as strong as the effort you put into it today. Most people don't want the truth. They want reassurance. This is a tough pill to swallow, especially when you've spent time and energy offering honest advice or sharing your perspective. The truth is, many people don't seek out honesty because they want clarity or growth. They seek it because they want to hear what aligns with their pre-existing beliefs or desires. We want reassurance that the choices we've made are right, that our feelings are justified, and that the path we're on is the one that will lead to success. The hard truth is most people would rather hear what feels good than what's true. This isn't always malicious. It's human nature. The fear of confronting uncomfortable truths, facing hard decisions, or acknowledging flaws can be overwhelming. So, instead of asking for the truth, people often ask for affirmation. They want their fears alleviated, their doubts quieted, and their choices validated, even if it's at the cost of long-term growth. When faced with the uncomfortable reality, they might avoid it, dismiss it, or resist it altogether. However, those who truly seek growth are willing to confront the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. They understand that truth, no matter how painful, leads to better decision-making, healthier relationships, and personal development. It's not always easy to offer the truth, and it's often hard to hear it. But when you accept that most people want reassurance instead of truth, you realize how much strength it takes to stand in the discomfort of reality. The truth is not always comfortable, but it's always what leads to true progress. A healthy no is more powerful than a fake yes. This is a truth that many people struggle with, especially in a culture that often values people-pleasing over personal boundaries. Saying yes when you really mean no may seem harmless at first, but over time it creates a pattern of resentment, burnout, and loss of self-respect. The truth is, saying yes to everything drains your energy, time, and mental well-being. It may offer short-term comfort or keep the peace, but in the long run, it only leads to frustration and a feeling of being overwhelmed. A healthy no is one of the most empowering tools you have. It's a declaration of self-respect, a clear statement of your boundaries, and an expression of your priorities. When you say no to something that doesn't align with your values, needs, or energy, you're saying yes to yourself. You're choosing to protect your time, your mental space, and your peace of mind. Saying no allows you to focus on what truly matters, on the relationships and opportunities that nourish you rather than depleting you. Fake yeses, on the other hand, are often motivated by fear of rejection, fear of disappointing others, or fear of conflict. They may seem like the easier route, but they only serve to rob you of your own authenticity. The more you say yes when you want to say no, the more you lose yourself in the process. By learning to say a firm but respectful no, you are asserting your right to choose how you spend your time and energy. It's a small word that holds immense power, allowing you to live a life that's in alignment with your true desires and boundaries. You'll outgrow people you thought were forever. This is one of the most bittersweet truths in life. the realization that some of the people who once meant everything to you may no longer fit into your future. Relationships, whether friendships, family connections, or romantic bonds, can be deeply meaningful at a certain point in your life. You may have believed these relationships would last forever, that you and the other person would always be there for each other, growing together. But as time passes, growth happens in ways that are often unexpected. You change, they change, and sometimes those changes lead you down different paths. It's painful to accept that someone you thought would always be by your side may not be anymore, but it's a natural part of life. You may find that your values shift, your priorities evolve, or your goals take you in a direction that the people around you can't or won't follow. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that the connection wasn't real or valuable at the time. It just means that growth is inevitable. You can't stay the same, and neither can they. This truth can be difficult because it brings up feelings of loss and betrayal, but it also frees you. You're no longer tethered to relationships that no longer serve you or allow you to evolve into the person you're meant to be. Outgrowing people isn't about rejecting them. It's about realizing that life's journey is a personal one, and sometimes it means stepping away from people who no longer align with your path. The beauty lies in understanding that this growth creates space for new connections, for deeper relationships, and for a future that's more in line with who you are becoming. Consistency is more important than intensity. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that success comes from bursts of intense effort, the all-nighters, the hard sprints toward a goal, the moments of sheer determination. And while intensity can produce short-term results, it's consistency that truly shapes long-lasting success. Intensity can burn bright, but it's short-lived. It's like trying to run a marathon at a sprinting pace. Eventually, you'll burn out. Consistency, on the other hand, is the steady, unwavering effort that compounds over time, gradually building momentum and delivering results that stick. This truth is often overlooked because it doesn't feel as dramatic or rewarding in the moment. It's easy to think that the faster you push, the faster you'll get ahead. But the real power lies in showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it, even when progress seems slow or invisible. Small, consistent actions build upon each other in ways that grand gestures never can. A little effort every day accumulates into something powerful and sustainable, while a few intense spurts of energy can leave you exhausted, uninspired, or burned out. Success doesn't require extremes. It requires discipline, patience, and daily dedication. Whether it's fitness, personal growth, or career advancement, consistent, steady effort is the key to long-term achievement. Intensity can jumpstart your progress, but it's consistency that will take you across the finish line. The real difference makers are those who commit to showing up day after day, no matter how small the steps may seem. The sooner you take responsibility, the sooner life changes. This lesson is one of the most empowering, yet often the hardest to accept. It forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality that your life is largely shaped by the choices you make, not just the ones you're proud of, but the ones you'd rather ignore. For many, it's easier to point fingers at circumstances, other people, or external factors when things aren't going right. We blame our past, our environment, or even bad luck, thinking that if only things were different, we would be different. But the truth is, no amount of blame or excuses will change your reality. Taking responsibility is the key to unlocking your potential. It means acknowledging that you have control over how you respond to what happens in your life. It's not about pretending that everything is your fault, but about recognizing that you are the one who has the power to change your situation. The moment you stop blaming and start owning your actions, decisions, and circumstances, you regain control. You shift from being a passive observer to an active participant in your life. The sooner you take responsibility for your choices, the faster you'll be able to make the changes necessary to create the life you want. It's a painful truth, but once you embrace it, you stop waiting for external factors to change. Instead, you realize that the real power lies within you, and you can start taking steps to shape your future. Responsibility doesn't mean perfection. It simply means taking control, learning from your mistakes, and actively working toward the life you want to create. The sooner you take responsibility, the sooner things begin to shift. Nobody will believe in you until you do. This is one of the most powerful and often painful truths about pursuing your dreams and ambitions. You might have a vision for your life, a goal that excites you, or a project you feel passionate about. But if you don't fully believe in your own potential, no one else will either. The world doesn't give you the green light to go after what you want until you first give yourself permission. If you're not willing to invest in your own belief, others won't see the value in what you're doing. When you show up with conviction, when you speak with confidence, and when you take action as though you already believe in your success, people are more likely to believe in you too. But it starts with you. You have to trust your own abilities, your vision, and your path, even when no one else does. It's not easy to push forward when there's doubt in the air, but the truth is, doubt is natural, and the most successful people have learned to move forward in spite of it. You have to take the first step before anyone else will follow. Belief is contagious. When you believe in yourself, others will start to believe in you too. But if you waver or hold back, others will pick up on that uncertainty. The world is waiting for you to lead by example. Your self-belief is the spark that ignites others' faith in you. No one will cheer you on the way you want them to until you're fully convinced of your own worth and your own potential. Believe first, and everything else will follow. Failure isn't final unless you quit. Failure is one of life's toughest teachers. It's painful, humbling, and often feels like the end of the road. But here's the brutal truth. Failure is not the end unless you decide to make it so. It's easy to let failure define you, to believe that because you've stumbled or fallen short, you've lost. But in reality, failure is just a step in the process, a lesson, not a destination. The moment you decide to quit is the moment failure becomes final. Until then, it's just a temporary setback. This truth is empowering because it gives you the power to redefine failure. Every time you fail and choose to keep going, you're proving to yourself that you are not defined by your mistakes or missteps. You are defined by your ability to rise again, to keep pushing forward even when the road is tough, even when the world tells you to stop. As long as you keep going, failure is just a part of the journey, not the end of it. Failure teaches resilience, adaptability, and perseverance. It forces you to learn from your mistakes, adjust your approach, and improve. The most successful people are not those who avoid failure, but those who fail and keep going. As long as you don't quit, failure will never be final. It's a lesson that shapes you, builds you, and ultimately leads you to success. You can't be liked and respected by everyone. The truth is, no matter how kind, charming, or accommodating you are, you'll never be able to please everyone. The more you try to win the approval of others, the more you lose sight of your true self. People's opinions are shaped by their own experiences, values, and biases. What one person admires in you, another may resent. Trying to be liked by everyone is a losing battle because you can't control how people perceive you, nor should you try. This reality is difficult for those who seek validation and approval from others, but it's also incredibly freeing. When you accept that it's impossible to please everyone, you liberate yourself from the constant pressure to conform, to change, or to shrink yourself into a mold that doesn't fit. You give yourself permission to be authentic, even if it means losing some people along the way. Respect, however, can be earned through authenticity, integrity, and consistent actions. While you can't control whether others like you, You can control how you show up, how you treat others, and how you stay true to your values. And those who respect you will stick around, not because you're trying to be liked, but because you've proven your worth through your actions and character. Ultimately, the most powerful relationships are built on respect, not on being liked. So stop chasing approval and start focusing on earning respect. The people who genuinely align with who you are will be the ones who matter most. Life doesn't get easier, you just get stronger. This is a truth that many of us wish weren't so, but it's one of the most powerful realizations you can have. Life often throws challenges, hardships, and obstacles your way, and in the moment, it can feel like it's becoming more difficult, more overwhelming. We hope that with time, things will become smoother, that the weight of life's struggles will lighten. But the truth is, life doesn't necessarily get easier. What changes is your ability to handle it. Over time, you grow, you learn from the hardships, you develop resilience, and you build the mental and emotional strength needed to tackle whatever comes your way. The challenges that once felt insurmountable become part of your story, shaping you into someone who is capable of overcoming even greater obstacles. You don't become immune to difficulty, but you become more equipped to face it. You become stronger, more adaptable, and more resourceful. This doesn't mean that the struggles won't be painful or exhausting, but it does mean that with each trial, you're building the strength to endure, to rise again, and to keep moving forward. Instead of waiting for life to hand you an easier path, you learn to navigate the tough ones with more confidence and skill. Strength isn't developed in moments of ease. It's forged in the fire of adversity. The more challenges you face, the stronger you become. And that strength, your growth, is what makes life more bearable, no matter how difficult it may get. You are your own biggest obstacle. This is the harsh truth that many people avoid acknowledging because it requires confronting your own limitations, fears, and doubts. Often, the biggest barrier standing between you and your goals is not the world, the economy, or other people. It's your own mindset. The doubts you carry, the insecurities you nurture, and the fears you allow to control you can hold you back more than anything else. You are the one who creates the narratives that limit your potential. You're the one who lets procrastination, self-doubt, and fear of failure dictate your actions. The hardest part of overcoming obstacles is recognizing that you are the one creating them in the first place. Every time you tell yourself you're not good enough, not ready, or not worthy of success, you're reinforcing your own limitations. The path to success begins when you break free from your own self-imposed boundaries and choose to act despite the fear or uncertainty. No external force has the power to stop you more effectively than your own lack of belief in yourself. Once you understand this, you can start taking control, making decisions that align with your true potential, and challenging the beliefs that hold you back. The truth is, the only person who can stop you from achieving your dreams is you. When you take responsibility for your own success and stop waiting for the world to change, that's when everything begins to shift. Failure is not final unless you quit. Failure is often viewed as a permanent roadblock, something that stops you in your tracks and defines your journey. But in truth, failure is simply a temporary setback, one that only becomes permanent if you stop trying. Every successful person has faced failure, sometimes repeatedly. What separates them from those who never achieved their goals isn't that they avoided failure, but that they didn't let it stop them. They learned, adapted, and pressed forward. Failure, when embraced as a lesson, is a stepping stone, not an endpoint. The only time failure becomes final is when you decide to quit. Until then, it's just another part of the process towards success. Nobody owes you anything. This harsh truth cuts deep for many, but it is one of the most empowering lessons you will ever learn. Life doesn't come with a set of guarantees. No one is obligated to offer you love, success, or even kindness. The people around you, no matter how close they are are not bound by any invisible contract to give you what you think you deserve. This realization can feel isolating, even crushing. The truth is, we often expect things to come our way simply because we want them, because we've worked hard, or because we feel entitled. But the universe doesn't operate on these assumptions. What's even more unsettling is that the people who hurt you, ignore you, or don't meet your expectations are often not malicious. They're simply living their own lives, driven by their own motives and needs. Waiting for others to take responsibility for your happiness, success, or validation is a trap. It's a way of surrendering your power, placing it in someone else's hands, and blaming them when things don't go as planned. No one else will ever fully fulfill your dreams, nor are they required to. You are the only one who holds the keys to your own destiny. The sooner you accept that nobody owes you anything, the sooner you'll start taking control, pushing through adversity, and building the life you want. This realization strips away the illusion of entitlement and forces you to take full responsibility for your journey. It's a painful truth, but one that will ultimately set you free. Life isn't fair and never will be. This is the bitter pill we all must swallow. Life doesn't play by a rule book that guarantees justice, equality, or a sense of fairness. It's a chaotic, unpredictable force that deals its cards without any regard for how deserving you are. You might work tirelessly, put in the hours, and still watch others succeed, seemingly by chance. Meanwhile, you could see others who don't deserve it get handed opportunities on a silver platter. Life doesn't owe you fairness, and the sooner you accept this, the sooner you'll learn to thrive in spite of it. It's easy to get lost in the idea that if you play by the rules, you'll be rewarded. But the truth is, the rules themselves aren't always fair. People with less experience or less work ethic sometimes rise faster, simply because of timing, privilege, or luck. This unfairness doesn't mean you should give up or stop trying, but it does mean you must adjust your expectations. Waiting for fairness is a losing battle. Life isn't interested in rewarding your goodness or punishing your failures with balance. Once you stop waiting for fairness to show up, you start to see opportunities in places you didn't before. You begin to find the power in accepting that life is a game with no guarantees. The truth is, fairness is a luxury that doesn't always exist. But in embracing that, you stop being a victim and start taking control of your own path, using unfairness as fuel to power your resilience. Most people only care about what you can do for them. This truth stings, especially when you realize that many of the relationships you've invested time and energy into aren't as genuine as you'd hoped. The uncomfortable reality is that, at the core, most people are driven by self-interest. They seek you out not for who you are, but for what you can provide them, whether it's attention, support, validation, or resources. This isn't a judgment on human nature. It's simply the way social dynamics work. We are all wired to pursue our own needs, and often that means using others to fulfill them. The harshness of this lesson becomes clear when you find yourself giving and giving, only to be left empty or unnoticed when you need something in return. You might realize that the people you thought were your closest allies disappear when you can no longer offer what they want. This pattern is difficult to confront, especially when you've been giving selflessly or investing deeply in others. The bitter truth is that some relationships are transactional, even if you want them to be more. It doesn't make people bad, but it does require you to reset your expectations. Once you accept this, you begin to understand the importance of creating boundaries, protecting your energy, and learning to give without expecting anything back. The key is not to let this realization harden your heart or make you cynical, but to empower you to choose relationships that are balanced and mutual, and to stop pouring into people who only take. You can do everything right and still fail. This lesson is one of the hardest to accept, especially when you've poured your heart, soul, and every ounce of effort into something. You've done the research, worked tirelessly, followed every piece of advice, and stayed disciplined. Yet, despite all the right moves, the outcome isn't what you expected. Failure hits, often without any clear explanation. It shakes you, undermining everything you thought you knew about success. You begin to question yourself, wondering where you went wrong or if you were ever on the right path to begin with. The reality is, life doesn't always reward effort. Sometimes factors completely out of your control, timing, luck, the actions of others, or external circumstances determine whether your hard work will bear fruit. It's not always a reflection of your abilities, intelligence, or worth. The truth is that success is often an unpredictable combination of persistence, opportunity, and circumstance. You can give your best, follow the perfect formula, and still find yourself facing failure. But here's where this lesson becomes powerful. Accepting that you can fail despite doing everything right removes the weight of perfectionism. It frees you from the need for constant validation and helps you understand that failure isn't the end. It's part of the journey. You're allowed to fail, and it doesn't negate your effort. In fact, it often brings lessons and resilience that success cannot. Life doesn't guarantee rewards for doing things the right way, but it does reward those who keep going, regardless of the outcome.